All right, I call this meeting as Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals to welcome all. Does anyone need to abstain from voting on any item?
Actually, Mr. Vice Chair, I do on appeal number 2232, the Murphy property.
Got it. That's item 3 on our agenda.
Yes, they live almost across the road from me, so.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else on any item?
No.
No,
Great. Was anybody out to see any of these properties?
I was out to see all of them.
I was out to see 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay.
I unfortunately did not make it out this week. I had work commitments.
Sure. And then did anybody speak with anyone regarding any of the variance requests?
No.
All right.
I spoke to the lady at St. Anthony Drive and basically said that I was on the Board of Appeals and I couldn't talk. And I took a photo. So that was.
Thanks, Tom. All right. You all have the agenda, I'm assuming. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the September 19th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Appeals?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion by Barbara, second by Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes of the August 15th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Stephen, second by Barbara to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. And on to regular business.
I wonder if we might make an exception in regards to the order of the agenda and first do the one for Alder X and then the following 2 items for Alder Morgan, as they likely have upcoming business meetings as well.
I hear you.
I will move to amend the agenda and do items 1 and then item 5 and then item 3, followed by items 2 and 4. Move to amend the agenda in that way.
It's a motion by Barbara to amend the agenda to read 1, 5, 3, 2, 4, I think in the order that you just gave. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Any other discussion? Or say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's start with item 1 then. No, is that?
Yes, that's correct.
2, 3, 4. Okay, item 1, appeal 22-30. Luz Maciel Velasquez, the property owner, proposes the addition of a second driveway to the front of a single-family home on 1722 Amy Street. Applicant requests to deviate from the following requirements in Chapter 44 of the zoning code, specifically the number of driveways and off-street parking location. All right, so folks, we're going to start by asking staff to just kind of orient us to this item a little bit, and then we'll open the floor for public input and also consult with our alder and have some discussion. Then we'll close the floor and deliberate amongst ourselves on whatever action it is that we're going to be taking this evening. All right, John, are you doing the report out on this for us?
Yep, I'll be doing the report here tonight. So our first property here is at the corner of Amy and Schwartz. As you can see here, southwest corner. The application is to go ahead and add a request for a second driveway. As you can see here on this aerial, the property itself has an existing 2-stall garage and 2-stall driveway coming off of Schwartz. The variance request is to add a second driveway coming in off of Amy Street. Applicant also submitted this form of showing the building itself and a driveway of approximately 20 feet in front of the building itself. This is the property over at 1722 with the area requested for driveway over on the left part of the property. Some neighboring properties nearby happen to have this type of driving situation. And you'll note back over here on the image of the property itself, this is the garage over on the left-hand part of the property with the existing driveway. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
I do.
Go ahead.
John, did you say that there are other properties that have their driveways, two different sets of driveways?
Just showing some photos here that were sent over by Tom here. As far as you'll note that this is a duplex that is nearby that happens to have a very wide driveway for a two-family building itself, with 3 different individual parking stalls if there's a shared agreement here in the middle stall between the 2 sites.
John, isn't the rules for multifamilies different than it is for single families?
Yeah, so there are different rules for multi and 2-family and single families, yes. So this is just a property that was nearby for an image, but this is a single family, are different requirements for single family homes, yes.
And John, I've got a question. Could you just explain the specific exceptions they're requesting here in terms of, I get the 1 and 2 driveway, it's more than 1 driveway, that one, but what was this second one about off-street parking?
Right, so let me just go ahead and pop it up for everybody. It's essentially primarily just saying how this right here in front of the building would be a second driveway that would be parking in the front of the building. There are ways to add more parking to this parcel in the rear/side of the property that would be within the code, but it would not be allowed to be in front of the property itself. For instance, right here, it's a 2-stall drive right here. You could, if the drive came off of this existing drive and parked behind the rear of the property with the existing 1 driveway, that could be acceptable, but the code does not allow for parking in the front of the property that doesn't lead to an actual garage.
Understood. Other questions from members of the board for staff?
Later, probably. I will. Not right now. Should I move to open the floor?
Yeah, let's open the floor.
Okay. Move to open the floor.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we've opened the floor. I saw Alder Morgan raise his hand. Let's go to you, Alder Morgan.
Okay, I went out to, this afternoon, I should say, I went out and checked out the residence and spoke with the whole family. You'll see that one of the daughters is on with the mother today. The daughter helps quite a bit translating. And from what they're telling me, their thought isn't really that they want it as a second driveway. They take great pride in their vehicles, and they bought the house as is, of course. And their thought is if they could park in front, maybe someday putting a garage door there and making the other parts sided like normal. But for now, they just want to be able to park where they can see their vehicles from their living room or the front of their house that they occupy the most time. So I don't know, Mr. Leroy, if there's been exceptions in the city for something like this before or not. I wouldn't know. I just told them that I would explain what I saw and what I felt their issues were. I know the daughter would like to speak for the family probably if you have a chance. It would be real nice if that house did have the driveway facing the same side as their front entrance, and they could reside the side or something. That'd be a beautiful looking house as it is right now, but I don't know the ordinance as well because, as you all well know, I've only been in this position since April. So that's all I have to say right now.
Great. Thank you, Alder Morgan. Let's hear from the petitioner. Luz, what was the name again? Yeah,
All right. So yeah, so we would put the parking lot right behind, but the gas line runs through there. So I don't know if that would be also kind of trouble, like making a new parking lot there since the gas line runs through there. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put it right in front of the house is during winter time, my mom goes out to work in the morning.
Luz, could you lean in a little bit so we can hear you better?
Sorry.
No, no problem.
Okay. So another reason why we want to put it in the front of the house is because my mom goes out to work in the morning. So it's hard for her to like turn on the car and like come back inside to like finish packing her things and then like at the same time like watching the car from outside, like from the other side of the house. So for her it'll be much better to like see it like from her view, from where she can see it better rather than like having the garage open and like checking it out every once in a while to see if it's still there.
all right. Any questions for our petitioners from the members of the board?
So we're just talking a driveway here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I wouldn't want you to think that you could put a garage there because there's a setback from the sidewalk. So I don't know if that would influence what your plans are now, but I don't think the city would let you put a garage there on top of the driveway later on.
I got the impression, Tom, that they were talking about putting a driveway, a second driveway, the existing garage. See how
Yeah.
that to the existing garage, and then maybe someday moving the overhead door to have the garage come to
Okay,
Amy Street as opposed to Schwartz. Is that the hope?
Yes. Sorry.
okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
I do. Why do you have to go and start your car and then leave it alone before you go to work? I'm trying to understand that.
Is that a
Luz-
wintertime thing?
Luz, you're muted. Yeah.
Dile que el tiempo de la nieve.
Yeah, it's mostly during winter time to let the car warm up.
Warm up? Okay, okay.
I do have one question. Have you verified, and maybe staff can answer this if you haven't, that there actually would be a problem with the gas line, or are you just assuming that there would be?
Right, as staff, we have not looked into whether the gas line would be an issue right there. No.
Okay. And Luz, your family, your mother hasn't checked?
No, we haven't called, but like en el papel de la casa dice que hay una línea de gas por ahí.
Pues andan cuando arreglaron ahí las de estas del gas.
When they were fixing the line gas around our house,
Mhm.
they would like usually go up there and they would always put like those little flags.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, those, and they would always like play caution. So, they did spoke to my dad once saying that there's a line. So we just like, yeah, they did tell us that that was the second option to put it behind the house, but my dad did tell him that there was a line gas running there. So we didn't know if putting the parking lot there would like become a problem with the gas line
Got it.
in there. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alder Morgan.
Yeah, just to throw in my 2 cents some more. I did observe their vehicles. They are older vehicles that don't have the auto starts. And that was the impression I got for winters before the mother has to go to work. She'd like to have a warm car to get in. And I'd like to also say that, they're a good family, work hard. They did pay the $75 to do this appeal. So, their concern is something they'd like to see happen. That's it.
Any other questions from the board? All right, so
Move to close the floor? Or do you want to keep it open?
I don't care. It's your preference. If you want to close at each item or open it as a blanket and leave it open through the meeting.
We can leave it open if that's the way
Yeah.
you'd like it.
That's
Okay.
fine.
To make it easier.
Leave it open. I'll use the knuckle gavel if I need to. So discussion, board member discussion. What are you thinking about this?
I see multiple options for taking care of this without installing a second driveway. I think the idea of turning the driveway to the other street and reorienting the garage, if the dimensions work out there, and it looks like they do, that's a great idea. But I think it needs to be done all at once. I also think that there is still an option to extend the driveway to the side and off towards the back of the house as well. We don't have any verification that gas line's an issue. Usually gas lines are buried fairly deep. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I don't view that as a reason to issue a variance. That's something that everyone would have to deal with at one point or another. They can do this within code. And in terms of keeping the car outside, I mean, I do that same thing that she does. I start my car before I go. Now, I'm lucky enough to be able to see my vehicle if I need to, but a $100 webcam would solve this problem as well.
I was looking at the things that we have to decide on upon which we make our decision. And I'm not coming up with the yes answers that we need to come up with. A concern I have is that I've never seen our committee be amenable to putting a big piece of cement in someone's front yard. We have the rules about the permeability of how much of the property has to be able to have the water soak through it. And so that question would have to be answered for me before I could, take that and put that aside. I also am thinking, I don't see exceptional circumstances here. I agree with Steve. There may be another way. And I would also be willing to not make the decision tonight so that if we could put this off so they wouldn't have to pay $75 again if they ever want to come back again. But it doesn't seem to be, there is a driveway, the driveway gets into the garage. There are some hurdles to be overcome. But if I were to do that myself, I couldn't see my car either in my front driveway. But a webcam for, as you said, Steve, would solve that problem. So I'm not understanding. I do not have a feeling that I could give a yes to this at this time, but I am still open to listen to the rest of the board.
Other members, other thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple. If, John, you could pull up the photo of the house with the two cars parked in front of it. Okay, so this is one of their neighbors. And if you were to look down the rest of the block, those houses conform to this style of architecture. The fact that these folks have a corner lot in their garages, as you've seen it, I guess I could understand wanting to have a driveway in the front of their house like the houses on the rest of the block. And I think that would be more in sync with neighborhood standard rather than putting it on the side where the garage is.
So Tom, if they had the garage in the front of the house right now, or if they had that driveway in the front of the house, would we allow them then to put in another driveway on the side of the house? Would that be something that we have allowed as a board? Because you're just saying they have a driveway. It's over here. I can see switching it over there, but then there's There's
then
two.
they should tear the other one out. I mean, it's,
Right, and the other one would have to go, and then the door would have to be switched, because
Right.
I just don't ever recall letting us letting anyone do this.
and all the other houses on that street are duplexes and governed under different rules. I think why the builder put that driveway over there is because it actually gives them more length. It gives them more driveway than it does out onto the main street. And that also gave them more depth in the garage. I'm not entirely certain that garage is wide enough to accommodate a full-length car going from that side. I think they'd have to seriously look at that. I don't know that that's square. Maybe.
Looks pretty square, but
It
yeah.
looks pretty
we don't know
square.
for
I
sure.
mean, in my mind, I would think that's a good option if they want to do it, but they have to do it all at once. They can't just put in the driveway and then at some unspecified time in the future, turn it around. Especially when there's within code options to increase their parking available. And I think that's really my sticking point. There are in-code options available, and that'll solve the problem. That's my sticking point anyway.
Noel?
Yeah, well, I'm wearing my chair hat, I guess, more, but I'm concurring with some of the things I'm hearing around, I guess if this were a proposal to remove the existing driveway and to put a new driveway in and then move the overhead door for that driveway to the front of the house, we might not even be here, right? Because that might be something they'd be doing with a permit as opposed to a variance, right?
And if it needed a variance, in that case, I'd probably be more inclined to approve it.
Right. John, if they were seeking to just remove the one and put a new one in and change the orientation of that garage so it's facing Amy Street, would that require any action by us, or would that be a permittable activity?
There's one issue that comes into play. So right now, it could be determined this is non-conforming in a way. If this was a brand new house, the code would require the driveway to be as far away from the intersection as possible. So right now, it appears as though the driveway that comes off of Schwartz is a tiny bit further away from the intersection than it is down in Amy. And you're creating a new problem right there by making it closer to the intersection.
So we might be still having a conversation in terms of a variance, but judging from the comments from the members here, that would be something a lot more favorably viewed than adding a second driveway with an unspecified future date of converting the garage.
And so what you're saying is, even if, say, we were to say yes, we'd still need another variance because to put a driveway there, because it'd be closer to the intersection?
No, it would have been granted at that point. You're asking the question if there's just one driveway in general. If this was, right now we have a building that is what it is. The garage is where it's placed right now. It's set in stone. But if you were taking this lot and the building was not the way that it is, any new driveways would have to go ahead and be as far away as possible from the intersection as feasible.
And as a plan reviewer, you'd say flip the orientation of the house, have the garage be on the inside of the lot coming out.
Correct. Yes, things of that sort. Yes.
So what I'm hearing though, and certainly, members of the board, if it were the case that they were saying, hey, let's add the one driveway, take the other driveway out and change the orientation of the garage, we could at the same time, we could take action to approve the variance in terms of the distance from the corner, and say, okay, we could allow that even though it's a closer approach of the driveway to the corner than the current driveway is on Schwartz as an action to resolve this matter. But I don't know if that would have any appeal to the petitioner, because that's not what they're asking for, right? They want to keep the existing driveway and add the new driveway. And I'm not hearing a lot of support for that action right now.
It's not even really for a driveway, it's for a parking lot. I mean, it's even referenced as a parking lot in the petition that they have. So that is what it really is for. And there is another way that it could be done. But is there any interest in holding this until we find out about the gas main?
Or the other alternatives, right, like putting additional there. Because if you went off to the back of the house, you know, you might be able to see the car parked in that space next to the garage from a vantage point at the back of the house. I don't know. Those are things that the petitioner needs to explore with their team.
I don't know that there's a value in holding it, because even if the gas line is too shallow and it would have to be buried deeper,
We're still gonna-
that's not the concern of the board. That's, you know, not you.
I
Right,
try
and
to
it might
find
not
ways.
require a variance at all if they were doing that,
Yeah.
that alternative for driving, right?
I always try to find the ways to say yes. And this one was a tough one.
Yep.
Because I couldn't come up with a defensible reason for our 4 points that we need to look at. So,
Yeah.
I can't say yes.
Yeah, it looks tough to make the hardship case here.
It is.
All right, so, well, let's, you know, we can look back at this and say, it sounds tonight to our petitioner that maybe the board will not vote in favor of your request. But instead of just saying no, we could also hold it and let you take a look at other alternative strategies, which may or may not require a variance, and then bring it back at a future meeting. If you've got something that, you know, that is different than what you're proposing tonight, we might be able to say yes to that. Is that something that you would want to explore? I guess you could just nod if you want to do that. Otherwise, let us know.
Because they wouldn't have to pay the fee again, right?
Right. Right. We
Yeah.
could hold this and give you a chance to work something out. I guess, like I said, now we could, or you could just say no, take the vote and see where it goes. But I'm afraid it's going to go against you.
So you guys did also mention that if we take this parking lot, the one that's already made, and we made this one, it'll be close to an intersection, right?
It'll be closer to the intersection at Amy and Schwartz than your current driveway is, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Because for us, I mean, it'll work out either ways. Because I mean, we would mostly care about the cars when they're turned on, especially during the winter time. So if it's easier for you guys to like remove the one that's already in there by the house and make it that's closer to the intersection, that would also be easier for us as well.
Be a lot more expensive for you though.
Sería más caro quitar este y hacer este.
How's that, Stephen?
Well, I mean, they have to pull out the other driveway and
Oh,
modify
because of the
garage.
demolition and the rework.
Yeah. I don't mean city-wise, but just the construction project would be far more expensive than what's being proposed.
And
Right.
moving the garage door. That would
Yeah.
And again, too, that as somebody's raised the possibility that maybe that garage is square and that would work just fine, but maybe it's not. So putting in the new driveway and taking out the old one, I think that's something, whether it needs an appeal or needs a variance or not is a question, but it certainly would be one that would be more favorably looked at if it does require a variance, I think, than what we're looking at right now. And so we could hold this item up, and maybe you figure it out, you don't need our help, and you get it done the way you ultimately wanted to do it by changing the garage's orientation. Or maybe you still need some additional consideration and you come back here at a future meeting.
Okay. So,
¿De qué te dijeron?
de que saldría más caro a hacerle quitar este garage por el diseño de los arquitectos.
Pero dile que a mí me sale mejor aquí, mija, porque yo salgo a las 4 de la mañana o antes de las 4 me tengo que ir a trabajar. Y en el tiempo de la nieve es lo que yo quiero para prender y estar mirando por la ventana.
Yeah, because for us it would be better if we had that parking lot there instead of where the original one is right here, since it would be easier for her to look at the cars and like be more comfortable on her seeing the car that's still turned on there where she left it.
Okay. So maybe you folks can look into that and make sure that you can do that. And then, and maybe you don't need a variance at all, in which case we can let your request just go away. Or if you do need to come back and we need to talk about the location of the driveway relative to the intersection and other things, I think that, like I said, we might, and I can't speak for a future board meeting, but we might be, if it's the same folks here, we might be more favorable in our response to that than we are to just adding a second driveway.
So how about if I move that we hold it for 90 days, and that's 3 months, and you can see if you can do this. And that way, if you need a variance, you don't have to pay the $75 again. And
Yeah,
you can
we just talked about it when
and
you're
ask. So we'll
And then-
hold it. But then if in 90 days we don't hear anything and you decide not to do anything or whatever,
We figured out
then
another
we're going to
way.
vote on it, and we're probably going to vote no.
Okay,
And then you can work with Mr. Roy about your options.
Okay.
You understand, Louis? Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if we do it in case that, if we do talk to someone that's like in charge of the parking lots, and if we do get like, if we are allowed to like make a new parking lot and take this one away, will we have to like come back to you guys and tell you guys that we did, or?
John,
Right.
talk to John, he'll be able to answer those questions for you at the staff level.
Right.
What we're going to
Go
do
ahead,
will
work
keep
you
you
on
from
it.
having to pay again.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, we won't make you pay again. We'll keep this open until we can resolve it.
Okay. All right then.
I move we hold it for 90 days.
Okay, motion by Barbara. Stephen, was that a second from you?
I
when you started
second.
Talking? All right, motion is second to hold this item for 90 days to allow the family and staff to see if we can come to another solution. All those in favor say aye.
hi.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
All
Muchas
right.
gracias.
Tom, are you opposed?
I am. I think we should have given him the variance.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
all right. Next up,
Number 5.
number 5. Appeal 22-34, Roy and Mary Johnson have installed a driveway that's encroaching into the side yard setback in front of a single-family home at 2454 Crest Lane. The applicants request to deviate from the following requirement, side setback for attached garages.
Okay, first thing I just want to note is Roy and Mary online right now in the Zoom. No? Okay. The reason I bring it up, I've had some phone calls here and they may have been calling to try to find a way to get online. We can go over this if we want to right now, but I don't believe the petitioner is here to go ahead and say anything. Noel, do you want to go with that then, as far as just going through the whole background?
We don't have the petitioners on. That's what you're telling us here.
It doesn't appear to be that way, no.
Okay. Well, I know, and one of the reasons we're taking some of these items out of order is because we want to get Alder Morgan and Alder Eck off to other meetings they might have this evening. Maybe John, you could take us through this, and then we could hear from Alder Morgan, and maybe if the petitioners join the call later, we can contend with it.
Sounds good. Okay. So the property here at 2454 Crest, see an aerial image that was from the past. The issue in mind is we're seeing here, provided by the petitioner, a street view of the property, some trees were removed back in 2020. The issue at play here is petitioners put in a driveway back in summer, and because this is an attached garage that is 2 stalls, they added on more area into the side yard than is allowed to code. As you'll note here from the photos, both the property owners have been working with the city quite a bit to go ahead and try to amend this issue. You'll note right here there is an issue with the taper triangle. They're going to cut that part off, and you're going to note then back out towards the garage door itself. There's a side door. We've worked with them to allow within the code to allow for the area of the side door concrete back near garage door itself. Let's see a photo of it right here that was taken. There's the garage itself. But going back to the issue, because this property itself is over 60 feet and it's an attached garage and they have 2 stalls, placing the concrete for parking right here in front of the house has its limits, and unfortunately it is, for their sakes, beyond where the concrete was poured. So they're asking for relief to allow for this area right here that is noted in this 4-sided area to have the concrete remain. The rest of this, both this part right here will be sawed off. The part in the back, city staff team was appropriate to have. And then right here, you'll note the property line as far as where the issues at play. The max amount of space that is allowed for an attached garage to a building is 6 feet is the start of where you can have your any sort of concrete, but it has to be for an actual. It cannot be for a drive and parking. That must be at the garage line.
So would this have been approved if it were deeper?
This would have been approved if there was space on the side yard where you could put an actual parking stall along the property. The issue comes into play to where the code states you're allowed to have your driveway go in the plane with the garage itself. And then if you have space to allow for a legal parking space beyond the front of the property. This is both in front of the property and it's not enough room to have a legal parking space.
So if it was bigger, they wouldn't need a variance?
No. So there are many things that are coming into play with that when it comes to that mind. The property line you're going to see right here, that's the iron that is approximately where the property line is at. And you can see the fence line, it's approximately where that's at. In this 6 feet of space right here, any sort of driveway cannot be allowed.
Okay.
And then
And how close is it?
right there, it's about 3 feet or so from
Okay.
it. Additionally, your driveway is intended to go ahead and be in line with the garage unless it was leading to an extension of the driveway to add a legal parking space on the side. But there is no room there to go ahead and do it because it's too tight on that property line.
Right, because they would only have, they'd have to have a 3-foot wide car to park it there.
Correct. Maybe in the future, but not yet. No.
So this, from the stake over to the driveway is only 3 feet right now and it has to be 6 feet? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying, John?
Yeah, it's approximately
So
3
how is-
feet. Yes.
And so the
if we
petitioner is
get-
asking us to let them keep this. basically.
Petitioner is asking to let them keep this. If it is denied, they will need to go ahead and cut out the
Right,
area that is right in this
yeah.
rectangular area.
And does the neighbor have any concerns?
We have a letter from the neighbor who has stated that they're unavailable to attend tonight. We received at noon, but they are in favor of granting the variance.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we've got a couple of folks who want to speak and let's get any questions we've got for staff out of the way first. So any members have questions for staff, for John? Or did we just take care of them in the conversation presentation?
I wanted to ask a little bit about, there's a narrative that was added to this. And it's a little bit long. It's 3 pages written out regarding how they came to this driveway shape. It seems like they had multiple inspectors or something here.
Right. So this came into play because there's also issues with drainage in the garage itself, which is not what we're discussing here. It's
Right,
different
right.
as building
Right.
codes. But once this was poured, then there was no specific site plan submitted for this driveway to
Okay.
the folks up here on 6. There was
Okay.
a plan that was submitted because of the curb cut and dealing with DPW as far as access on the road, but not an actual site plan for the driveway.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions from board members for staff? All right. Alder Morgan, yeah, I saw you with your hand up. Let's hear from you, and then we'll go to the petitioner if there's here any other.
Okay.
We're trying desperately.
I am
The other
talking right now with Mary and Roy's in the background. They can't get on Zoom for some reason, and I'm trying to give them the numbers, but it isn't helping. I've known Roy for many years. Roy is a retired Green Bay police officer, and I've been at their house to check this out. They hired someone that was one of the people that a city website showed as someone that they approved for doing this type of work. And they thought he was handling all the permits and everything properly. And when I look at it, it is very nicely done. Like you were saying a little bit, I was trying to help Mary and listen in on your conversations, and it is too small of an area to park a car. I don't even think you could put very much of a large or a small fishing boat in that space. They've spent a lot of money. They actually had this project done with having their garage floor redone. And I think it's only there just to make sure that they can park their cars at a distance decent to open the doors and not be hitting each other. Their driveway originally was kind of tight. Aesthetically, it looks fine, I think. Of course, this is my opinion. And I know the neighbors in the area, that the couple that I had talked to didn't seem to have a problem with it, but they didn't want to go on record, so I can't offer you anything on that. Driveway to have, but I don't know. Like I said, I hate to plead ignorance, but I don't know how the rules follow in that either. So I'd have to go by Mr. Leroy's testimony on that. And I'm gonna.
We were told we didn't need a building permit
Yeah.
by the guy that we had hired, electrical man, but he obviously was wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to. Is there a way we could move this back and see if I can help them get on?
Move it
Or-
back as in like just hold it up for a little bit and
Yes,
and try it
I have
later
nothing
tonight?
that I have to go to urgently, so it's totally up to you.
Okay, if you can, I think that would be great. Certainly just pause on this right now, I think, and move to another item on the agenda if that works for everybody.
Is that okay with you, Mary? We'll try to get you on. Okay.
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah, if you guys, ladies and gentlemen, would like to do that, take that into consideration, that'd be appreciated.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Alder Morgan. We'll do that. Barb,
I just see that Tommy showed up, and I also wanted to say, I think then we should do item 3 for Alder Act District 11.
right. That would be next on the agenda, and our chair has arrived. I am happy to relinquish control of this meeting to Mr. Tommy Everman.
Yeah, again, my apologies, everybody. My wife, it's a quick personal story. She surprised me on a birthday weekend trip out to DC, and we were hoping to get back in time, and we were driving, and I realized I don't have anybody's cell phone, so I should get someone's cell phone so I could text. I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be 20 minutes late. But it was a surprise trip, took me out of town, and I thought for sure we would be back in time, but I didn't want to call in while we were like driving from Milwaukee Airport. So came straight in, dropped the suitcase, got on. So again, my apologies to everybody for my delay. It was a good trip though. All right. Thanks, Noel. Thanks everybody for covering here. Fill me in real quick, if you don't mind, so I don't jumble things up.
Sure,
We were doing 5.
We just paused on 5 and we did reorder. So 3, 2, and 4 are next on the agenda.
Copy that. So in that order, 3, 2, 4. Okay. Then we'll see where 5's at, and then 1.
We
Copy
did.
that. Oh, you did 1 already?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. Again, my apologies. I'll say it. That's it. I'll say. Okay. Let's jump to item 3, Appeal 2232. Troy Murphy, property owner, proposes improvements in a non-conforming driveway in the front of a single-family home. the address is 1683 Forest Glen Drive. We're basically looking for a side yard setback, side load driveway width, inside edge arc of driveway. So there's a couple things going on here, and I'm sure John can take us through that. So, John, why don't you tee this up for us, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. So issue at play here over on Forest Glen is that we're dealing with a non-conforming driveway. So property owners have a driveway that doesn't meet a few sections of code right now, and they're looking to go ahead and do some major repair work, construction work to it beyond the non-conforming limits. So with that in mind, there's a side loaded garage. And so the variance questions that come into play would be, one, going back to the attached two-stall garages on a single-family home, the side yard setback for where the driveway is come in is 6 feet. Additionally, when you have side-loaded drives, the throat of the driveway is to start at a minimum of 15 feet beyond the right-of-way itself. Finally, because they're doing some major reconstruction of the driveway, they have attached a few different options as far as driveway width, which goes beyond the code itself. So a driveway is allowed to, on a side-loaded driveway, the driveway can be as wide as the garage itself, but not wider. They're asking relief to go ahead and allow for the driveway to get a bit wider than the garage itself. So they've offered up two different options, an option A and an option B. They are here to go ahead and talk. And in addition, we have received a number of different letters from the nearby neighbors for the property who are giving their thumbs up to the request that was sent forth by the Murphys. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. I appreciate it. Let me take care of just one quick housekeeping thing. There is someone that is labeled Zoom user on the call that has a virtual hand up. Are you speaking to something that we've moved on through, or are you wanting to comment on the one that we're currently on? I just want to kind of understand why the hand raise is happening.
No, I thought my item had been skipped. I got a petition, but I'm number 4, so I'm coming up.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but I thought it was skipped.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't skipping over someone. We'll get to you soon.
Right,
okay.
Thank you.
Looks like we got Troy and Trisha. I see both of them here on the call. So your time to present and kind of take us through the application, your case, if you will, to the board, and we'll, listen to the testimony, and then we'll see if there's anybody else speaking on the call. I know we have an alderman as well here. So, but I always like to start with the petitioner first, if that's okay.
Great. Thank you, guys. First of all, Stephen, sadly, I have to meet you on an online call, not across your street. So I apologize for that, but good to finally meet you. And Noel, good to see you. I just would say Trish and I have had a great process with the city. This has been, really just a discovery for us. But we bought the house over 3 years ago from the Decker. The Decker family originally built it. They were politicians in Green Bay, and a beautiful home built in a bunch of the oak trees that they literally built it within the trees. So we had some trees falling, took those down. Our issue's been, there's a lot of heaving in the driveway. The driveway needs to be replaced. Obviously the heaving from some of the roots, it just needs to be replaced. So upon trying to just actually replace the driveway and to extend an ability to be able to turn around, because the angle of the driveway for 2 cars, we have found swings typically on to the lawn. And so if you could see the width there in the picture, really doesn't extend past the garage as far as width, but there's a little bubble out for us to be able to back out and go out front ways. There is, I think it's the oldest cherry tree in Brown County. They're on my south neighbor sides, Tom and Kay, and there's a bit of a blind spot, but we are on that property line, and so we're just asking for that variance. We, obviously getting out of the cars too, it's pretty tight for us, and because of the odd placement of the home, it's not a front load. we just think this would be help eliminate some of the practical difficulty.
Great. And then I noticed that Tricia was on the call. Was she here just to help, or she have any other testimony she'd like to add as well?
I would just say that, and I think you said it too, Troy, maybe you can't tell in there, but the driveway, literally the original cement, there's actually cutouts for where the trees were because they were so close together. So the driveway is probably as narrow as it could be for two cars to be in the driveway. So in the winter, when you plow, if there's cars sitting there, you can't even walk past the vehicles. So if we have people coming over, we literally have to remove one, or at least leave it open so that you can walk by. So it's difficult to get up the driveway in the winter. Well, even if it's raining or, anytime there's any kind of weather, if there's a vehicle parked there, we can't get past it.
And I'm typically then plowing grass and killing the grass. And so it starts the process all over again. So,
Yep. Copy that. Okay. Cool. Before we get to the Alder, is there any questions for the petitioners from the board? Okay. Hearing none. I think I saw earlier there was Alder, X, I think I saw her. Is she on the call still?
Yep.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hey, perfect. Are you here to speak for this one?
Yes, I am.
Great.
So I went out and looked at the driveway, before today so that I could get an idea of what they were looking for. And I don't know, John, do you have other pictures of this? I feel like if there was a street view, it might be a little bit more helpful, but it is on an incline. It's hard to tell in those pictures. But that adds to, from perspective, and my guess is the property owner, it adds to the difficulty of the getting in and out, is coming out of the driveway and then having to maneuver down a hill as well. It's, a slight incline. So looking at it, understanding how having that extra little bit to back out makes sense to make it easier to get out of the driveway. So, and I also had talked to Tricia and Troy. Okay, there you go. It's a little bit of wait, was that it? No, that's not it.
That's not it.
That's an old picture.
House. Yeah. Is that the house?
Yeah, years ago.
Oh, wow.
And you can see it's got those trees like they were talking about though on either side of the driveway.
That's a 2012 picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So I talked to both, to Troy and being, emailing back and forth and just understanding where they're at and the thinking behind it makes sense. And now that they worked around the trees, so the trees are gone, so it allows a little more room there. But that's what I was getting at. Sorry, got distracted with it. Didn't look like their house. Was suggesting to go to the neighbors to get that letter showing that they were okay with it. Because I know that's a big deal, is making sure that the neighbors are okay with that being closer to their property. And they did do that.
I will say too that to start like the right of way, the 15-foot arc with John that you presented would change completely. It'd have to be a straight. You consider 2 of the 6-foot variance from the property line, or the setback, we'd have to push that driveway in, and then it would be a nearly 90-degree turn. And then it would probably just even it would look really weird in front of that house. So I think we just intended to keep some of the nature of how it was built and how it's positioned and add a little space so we can pull in and out.
Because you can see that the house is even built crooked on the lot. It is right on the lot line. So it makes it difficult. I think they were trying to make it the best they could with those trees. Again, the trees, they were trying to honor the way that neighborhood was, which these trees are beautiful in this neighborhood. I think it's the signature. It's funny when we talk to people about living in this neighborhood, they often say, oh, it's the neighborhood with all those beautiful oak trees. And it's true. So
I should say
Okay.
that's not only my district, it's also my neighborhood. They're one street over.
There you go.
So I do
Very-
understand that.
Well, thank you, Alderman, and thank you, applicants, for the testimony. I don't currently have any questions for the alder or for the applicants. Before I move on to see if there's anybody else on the call, do you have any questions for the alder that's on the call?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's do this real quick, and then we'll move to some discussion. Is there anybody else on this call that wants to speak for or testimony against the approval of this variance? Alder Stoyer, I see your hand up. Are you wanting to speak on this? Uh-oh.
We can't hear you, Mark.
I can't hear him. And it looks like we have a raised
Okay.
hand for
You're muted,
Cody.
Mark. Okay.
All right, we'll come back to you in a minute. I see a Cody Brunner with a hand raised. Is that for this variance?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and state your name and then the address in which you live for the record.
Cody Bruner. I live at 1689 Forest Glen Drive, which is the property that's also shown in that aerial view. And I just wanted to voice my support for option A. I think it's a great plan. I think it's a very awkward setup the way it is without the trees, and that it would make their driveway much more usable. And they've done great work with the house, and it looks great. So I think them spending the money on this would be a great improvement to the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you, Cody. Is there any questions for Cody from the board? Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
No, I have no questions for Cody.
Oh, okay.
I want, as a resident.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just one second. Any questions for Cody or any thoughts there? Everybody's good? Okay, cool. Go ahead, Stephen.
I'm Steve Schuckert. I'm at 1690 Forest Glen Drive, so kind of kitty corner from the house there. I also support their request for variance. They have a very nice house. It's a beautiful mid-century modern, like most of them in this neighborhood are. And the driveway is awkward because of the way the house is placed. And this seems to be a reasonable option that I don't think you could really see all that well from the road anyway. So speaking strictly as a resident of this neighborhood, I would support that.
Okay. All right. Before we get to some discussion. Okay. All right. Let's dive in. I would love to just, John, if you could pull up real quick for us so we could tee this up. It looks like they proposed two options in their letter. It said they prefer option A as the approval. So it has that bump out on the side, and then obviously a little bit more on the right side of the driveway as well, just create a larger turning angle. The preferred option. They did suggest an alternative option, which I can say as a chair, I appreciate when people come in with multiple options looking to work with the code, minimize the impact. I think that's kind of the goal of everything we're trying to do here is minimize the impact there. That's my personal opinion. So I just wanted to make sure we all saw both and then start a discussion from there. Do you want to just go around the horn here real quick? Alder Dorf, do you want to start us off? Do you have any thoughts, comments?
Went out and looked at it, and I certainly can see why there's concern, and I was able to answer yes to the questions. I don't have a strong feeling whether it's A or B. I know B is a little more conforming, but I don't think A is out of line, and it seems that that's the one that they prefer. So I would be willing to support A at this point, but I will listen to what the other board members have to say.
Thank you. And I'll add a comment real quick too. Is that one of the things we always try and look at is the way the property itself is laid out with the house on it, right? Rather than technically the individual use but the property developed in a way. This house is cornered. It's already kind of butt up against property lines. So just as the property line is developed with the physical structure, creates some challenges. So I think that opens up to some creativity right there. That's just kind of a thing for everybody on the call. Stephen, where are you at with this? Besides
I'm
being a
actually
resident.
recused.
He's abstaining on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Okay.
They're my neighbors.
I missed that portion.
I can't really.
I thought when you were saying the thing is a resident, I was like, oh, maybe I should ask him to recuse, but that probably
No,
happened
no,
earlier.
no.
in the
I've
meeting.
already recused. So.
Okay, sorry. All right, Noel.
Yeah, I think this is a weird house location. I mean, it's different, and that's what the Board of Appeals is for the one. And they're trying to make the best out of the situation. I hope that wasn't the big storm this last year that you lost those oak trees in. I think you're making the best of the property. I think a turnaround on a longer driveway with a curve. Otherwise, you're backing out, looking over your shoulder, kind of a long arc, and then still coming out with limited sight distance at the street. I think getting that turnaround in there is not unreasonable to ask for, and I'm kind of inclined to approve option A here as it's presented.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I would be inclined to approve option A, echoing Noel's comments as far as the turnaround. So they drive into their garage and then they're able to go out nose first onto the street, not looking over the shoulder. And I'll say it's a unique property, not a weird one, Noel.
Yeah, I'm okay with weird though, so.
Okay, thanks, Tom. To be clear, it looks like we're ready to take a vote here. John or Steph, when we approve this, do we need to approve A or B, or can we just approve the variance requests and they can decide if they want to do A or B?
Right, so they're asking for all, for all three of them. So you do not need to go ahead and say option A or B. It's fine. Because in option B, there have been less variances that would have been applicable. In option A, all three are. So again, the safe to go ahead and do what they want to do. That works.
Okay. All right. So I would entertain a motion here if the board's pretty in a good spot here.
I would move to approve the variance as requested.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the variance as requested by Noel, and we have a second by Tom. Any other discussion before we take a vote? Thoughts, concerns? Okay. All those in favor of approving, go ahead and signify, raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the ayes have it. All right, so the variance for this one is approved. So just continue to, it looks like you're doing a great job working with the city. Thank you for the preparation of this application, very thorough. All the neighbors working with the city. I'm a perfect example of how this all should work together. So thank you for everybody involved for that.
Outstanding work on talking to your neighbors as well.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
For sure.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And feel free to stay on the call. I got to get my charging cable. Feel free to stay on the call if you want, or you can hang up. No need to stay if you don't like to. All right.
I'm in an airport trying to get home. So
Okay.
rather.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys.
See ya.
Appreciate it. Let's
Thank you.
remind me again. Where are we moving now? We're moving to now
Item
4.
two, unless Alder Morgan has the petitioner for item 5 ready to go.
I believe it says Mary down there. That should be Mary and Roy.
Okay, so
And
let's
I
jump
wanna
back to
thank-
Mary. I'm going to
I want
excuse
to thank
myself.
Jessica for getting them on for me.
Yay, Jessica. I'm going to excuse myself for 30 seconds. Go ahead and start without me. I just got to grab my charging cable from my suitcase real quick. I'll be right back.
All right. John, you want to just refresh us on this? Okay, this is where we're at, and it's the
Right, so we're gonna go back to what we have right here. So attached garage and With this in mind, there's no front parking space beyond driveway area that is leading to parking stalls. And there's a 6-foot side yard setback too for any sort of legal driveway space. So what is happening here is, if you look at the area where we have our 4 sides, the dash line is within the code as far as what is perfectly acceptable. The area back out this way is additional space that's leading to a parking area that is in front of the property and is within the feet or so of the property line.
Perfect. And we have the applicant on the call now. So let's go ahead and have them jump on and give their testimony.
Mary, you'll have to unmute your computer. Bottom left corner.
Yeah, right there. Thank you.
Are we there?
Now can you hear us?
We can. Thank you so much.
You're shaking heads, but we don't hear you. Right.
We can hear you.
So sorry. Thank you. The bottom part that has the perforation down on the bottom, that has been removed. That was done wrong. Our contractor didn't know a few of the things that, and we of course didn't know what the rules were because we didn't have a building permit. He had told us we didn't need one because it was an existing driveway, not a brand new driveway. So we were replacing. So we didn't have a building permit, which started this whole thing. We didn't know what we should or shouldn't do. But I had gone through and printed the rules online. So we followed anything that was on there. And the things we could find said that you had to be 2.5 feet from your lot line. And I guess according to John, that has, it should be 5 feet, not 2.5. It must have been for a narrow lot. So that part was done incorrect. We have tried, everything else is in the right spot as far as that goes. The city came out and they checked the apron, they checked the sidewalk. So we thought we were approved by the city. We didn't realize that there were 3 permits needed. So that was all messed up also. But after the thought, we were given a knock on the door saying that this was illegal. We didn't have not illegal, but if we would need either a variance or to rip it out. So we left it and thought we'd go for the variance. We are 3.5 feet beyond that part that's added on to the left. There's 3.5 feet, and I guess it's supposed to be 5 feet, or John, I think, mentioned 5 feet. So we need a 1.5 foot variance for that, just to keep it as it is.
We were the very first house to build on an empty street here. We've been here 47 years. And we've always had a water issue after this house next door to us was built. And it's higher ground than ours. So the water would come through the drain. It would build up in there and it would leak into underneath a garage, our service door in a garage. And we've had 2 storms since they put this in before we even had a building permit of any kind. Anyway, it's been a real godsend because now the water runs down the driveway where the snoop, and it runs right straight down into the road. Now we don't have that water buildup between our 2 houses, and that has been a godsend. We'd like to keep the out there because it's been really, really good. It looks nice. And
we always had an extra car release. We did have some patio blocks put in there for about 20 inches to give us a little more room, so we weren't dinging the doors and we weren't constantly moving a car. There was an option that we could park on the road, but we are on a school street, so the buses come down the street. We have 3 driveways across from each other. I think one of the pictures shows that, where how close our driveways are. So it just isn't even on the road. And we have children coming up and down the street also, so on bikes. So we prefer to stay in our own driveway. And we've got a 3rd summer vehicle. That was the object of trying to make it a little bit wider at this point, because our children are gone. Our grandchildren are here now, but our children are gone. So we are trying to stay within the bounds and hopefully make it look better and not worse. The people next door have only been there 2 months. They've been wonderful neighbors, and she did come over, but she had a meeting at 5 o'clock she was going to be attending. So she said she was all for it, but that's all we've got is what she told me. So I don't know if anybody else sent anything in. We've got wonderful neighbors on all sides of us, and they've all thought it was nice. They couldn't believe that there was even a possibility we'd have to rip it off. Oh, Lynette.
Oh, Lynette.
Okay.
Oh.
She got a new driveway last year. She had a different contractor and he never called us back. So I don't know where to go from here. We sent in some pages of all the dates and when all this happened. We were shocked that anybody was upset about it because we thought it was great, but obviously we didn't do things the correct way.
We didn't plan on doing something wrong.
No.
We didn't. It wasn't. It was it was put in by a good contractor. He did a heck of a nice job, and he's been real good.
He fixed the bottom part right away. He was here within 2 weeks to fix that when he realized it. So
It's been a real frustration, to say the least.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, you see a lot, of stuff come through the backwards way, right? Where stuff was done, positive intent intended, contract did or didn't know. So we do see things like this. I mean, the one we had before where they go through the process that way, and then ones where we're kind of backing into it. So let's move through this, guys. Yes, Alder, did you have something you wanted to add?
I want to ask Mary, I think I heard her say they did cut off that portion in front. I haven't been to their house in a couple of weeks.
he was here, Wes Doran did our driveway and he was here within 2 weeks when I told him that
That's
we
cut
couldn't have
off,
that.
yep.
So he did that.
So that part is cut off? Okay.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Alder. Is there any questions for the applicant from the board before we move on to potentially other testimony? Yes, go ahead, Noel.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what's the intended use for this, this space here?
Just the extra, we have a summer vehicle that's in the garage.
A motorcycle.
So we use that to go around and it's been very beneficial. Also, before this, my parents were in wheelchairs. So it was always nice to be able to open up our car doors to get them in and out. They
Have a little bit more room. Got it.
That was
Okay.
what it
I know
was.
you just said some of that. I missed a little bit of it as you were talking. Thank you so
That's
much.
okay.
Thanks, Noel. Go ahead, Stephen.
Just a quick question around the drainage. The concrete is what's fixed your drainage issues?
They sloped it. I mean, they really did a nice job. Now it doesn't go into the service store on the side.
Okay.
And it goes
And
right
previously,
down.
the concrete there was sloped in the incorrect direction?
Yeah, it was not effective at all.
Okay.
The best part is now I don't have to worry about it. It runs right down the driveway out to the street.
So that part of it's been a godsend.
I think if I cut that out of there, I'm gonna have a water issue again. But this is the first time in 47 years, since that house was
Coming
built,
under the
about 10
door
years.
before.
That house was built about 10 years after we moved, we built, so.
Any other questions from the board for the applicants? Okay. All right. Is there anybody else on the call that is here to speak for or against this variance request? Okay. All right. So on that note, let's go ahead and throw this around a little bit, discuss as a board. To be clear, John, the specific request on this one is listed on the application or the agenda as side setback.
Yep. So if you were to grant this variance, they'd be able to keep their driveway the way that it is right now, since the taper triangle has been accounted for. If you deny, at that point, as noted on one of the images, their driveway would have to go ahead and be in line with the garage itself, because that would then put the driveway into a legal space. If you start going ahead and adding more width to it onto towards the neighboring property line. Now we're having issues with the side yard as far as where driveways are allowed to be in side yards that don't go to an actual parking stall, and it wouldn't go to a stall.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the distance against the lot line. It's the idea that there's a side concrete that doesn't lead to a parking spot. That's specifically what we're talking about, correct?
Correct. It's just too narrow right there. If there happened to be 10 more feet, we'd be talking about a different story right here. But unfortunately, it's too close. Yes.
Okay. And then to be clear also, I think everybody's on the same page, but I think we should be really clear on this one. If they pull it out, they would still be able to keep the sidewalk portion that goes to that, from the driveway out the front, right? And they'd be able to enter that side door. All of that would stay. It's just that little area in the front that would come out, correct?
Correct. It's a four-sided area that has been demonstrated on that image, which I'll pop up again just for reference.
Just so everybody's real clear, because again, it's the whole thing's not coming out. They could keep the stuff that is towards the front where that flower pot is.
Correct. It's these four lines right here. And Perfect. This is already gone. So it would remove this space if it's not granted, and if it is, this can all stay then to the north.
Got it. Okay, great. Everybody clear? Good. All right. Where are we at with this, everyone?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
I'm in favor of it. I feel like I could answer the questions, yes.
I feel like I can't, because we've denied good people this exact variance in the last meeting and the meeting before. Just in the interest of consistency, we have not allowed people to create these extra parking spots without that center drive in there. We made a gentleman pull this out in Alder Stewart's district not 3 meetings ago. I understand. I mean, the truth of the matter is I have spent the last couple of weeks trying to look into this particular ordinance as to why the city of Green Bay has it and what its purpose is. I don't know what that is yet, and I don't know what the thought process is behind it. John, if you had any.
Yeah, so the thought process behind it is to do one of two things. It's to not have your front yard have too many parking stalls, just littered with parking stalls in it. This is an oddball. If there was space on the side of the property, you could have your driveway lead to a legal parking spot up against the side of the property. That would be legal because now the parking spot would be behind the building itself. This right here is leading to, one, the side yard itself is being encroached upon because you're placing this new driveway in an area where you're not allowed to go ahead and put driveway parking. And two, it's an illegal parking spot in front of the house. So the code pretty much states if you're going to have a drive leading somewhere in the side or rear of the property, you can have the drive happen right there. But if it's just leading to the front, unless you have a 1-stall attached garage, if you have 2 stalls, it's meeting the code as far as allowing cars to go in and out. The relief comes in with a single stall garage.
I mean, and I mean, this is something that eventually we're going to have to that I would eventually like to work with Tom and bring up to the council. But I mean, the code is what it is right now. And in the interest of fairness, I mean, I understand that the petitioners did everything they thought was right. This is no fault of theirs. We've had petitioners like this before where it's no fault of theirs. They've tried to do the right thing and it hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Either the contractor didn't know. Usually it's on the contractor who's not following the code. Made people rip these out. It just seems to me that I've been here for 40 years, so I haven't had this for 40 years, so there's no additional hardship. I want to approve this because I think it's beautiful concrete. I think it's done well. I think you have great reasons for having it, and city code doesn't allow it. And I don't think you meet the criteria for doing it. And in terms of this board being consistent in its rulings, just because I like the petitioners, I can't say yes. So that's my piece.
Chair, can I ask a question? Tommy, are you talking?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Tommy.
Go ahead, Barb.
Okay, I'll just go ahead. Okay, so we denied a petitioner just a few items ago. And we suggested that they add another spot instead of having the driveway in front of the house. My understanding was we were suggesting that they put that more of a driveway off to the side so they could park a car beyond the garage door.
But it goes back, and that's in code. If they can drive past the garage into another parking spot, they're allowed to have that.
In this case, they can't.
And in this case, they can't.
And what about the water issue? That's the other thing. I think what I appreciated about these applicants was like they did things like put in a French drain and then they took it out, and they've tried to be so compliant. They've worked with the city doing things. So, but Steve, I hear what you're saying, because you're right. Consistency is really important. It is, but can the water drainage be an issue if this has solved the problem? Could it be?
Well, I was kind of looking at it because they're allowed to keep that initial piece of concrete and sidewalk up near the door. That's still sloped back. It'll run into the lawn. It shouldn't run into the garage anymore.
I've got a question for John. John, showing that piece that would need to be removed, or we to deny the application, how wide is that?
Right. That itself, and Mary, you can pipe in if you have the exact.
I believe it's 6 feet. 6 by 16 is what we're trying to keep.
That sounds about right there. Yeah, it's about 6 feet or so.
So
yeah.
that's not a parkable space by itself. I mean, I think the petitioner is talking about putting a motorcycle on it, although that's again.
Motorcycle's actually in the garage.
Yeah,
we're trying to get our car in there behind up to the side so we aren't always going around a vehicle.
Yeah.
Which we've done all our life, going around a vehicle basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little smaller than the additional third parking space, although in this case, it's probably going to be parking a vehicle like a motorcycle here. So I hear exactly Stephen's questions. I also, I tend to be somebody who looks at all the aspects of the hardship, but I also think about, the process as well. And I know sometimes we've got folks that, do things because they don't care that the city's got ordinances and they just do what they want to do. And then when they get busted for it, they come here and they ask for a variance. And then there's others who try to comply, or who do what they think is right. And they get confused either in the process or, maybe the city drops the ball on part of the process. We've had certainly some conversations around that at times as well. And I'm not saying that happened here, but, where it wasn't exactly clear and somebody who's had multiple contacts with City Hall should reasonably expect that they're not going to be allowed to do something that's violating the rules when they've had those multiple contacts. And I think maybe we need to work on that, but, yeah, I'm a little on the fence on this right now. I hate the request after the fact, and that's a real challenge for me. But at the same time, this one's a little different than some of the others I think we've said no to.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It was an microphone thing. So I am on the fence as well. So I have a question for the board to consider. I initially was deny. It stinks. Self-imposed. To Stephen's point, we've been, I feel like, pretty consistent on denying this, whether it was before or after the fact, which we always hate the after the fact ones. However, just a question for the board, right? So part of what we're supposed to frame our thought process around is the hardship is not imposed, right? It's not an individual. It's the structure of the property. For example, on the last one, the way the building was structured on the lot line created some unique challenges in terms of how that property was being used. In this case, what John has said is there is basically not enough width for them to be able to use the property to create that third parking stall, which would be on the side of the house. And so if I use that lens for this specific property and I say, hey, this property cannot do what the code says. They cannot get that third parking spot because the lot's not big enough where the garage sits. Does that start to change a point of view, Stephen? Because I agree with you in terms of consistency. I want a consistent, so it doesn't sway you in any way.
Well, the one we made tear out in Alder Stowers district, he didn't have the room either. And we made him tear the driveway out. Now, that being said, he had tried to put that driveway in without contacting the city at all. It was certainly a different circumstance. But the logic of they don't have room doesn't flow, doesn't conform with our previous decisions.
Okay. And I don't remember that one specifically. So you might have did you actually go back and look at that and make sure it wasn't a side setback thing?
Yes, because we saw them twice, and the neighbor had he was talking about putting his RV there, and his neighbor was worried about occluding his bedroom. And
okay.
Yeah,
all right. Barb, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Okay, so two things. First of all, in that prior one, the neighbor objected vociferously, and in this one, the neighbor's not objecting. And then back to exactly what Tommy said, that's what I, as the new kid on this board, thought, oh, well, if if it was wider back there, they could do it. Therefore, it's the shape or it's the property that's causing the hardship. So I was thinking along those same lines when I said I thought I could answer yes to the questions. And I also hear what you're saying, Steve. I do think that one with the RV was different than this one.
I mean, I want it to be different because I felt like he was trying to get away with something, but the truth is the intentions don't matter. It's, if we approve this, every person who doesn't have enough room to put in a driveway and needs a variance, we're going to have to say yes.
Right. Yeah.
And if the truth is, I think if we want this fixed, and I kind of do want this fixed, by the way, I have been digging through code and looking at a number of different cities' codes and trying to figure out why these exist. I think we need to go to the council. And Tom was talking about this in an email the other day, and I actually want to get lunch with Tom and come up with a plan so that we don't have these anymore. Because, I mean, it seems to me, I've only been on this board since February, and I think we've done 7 or 8 of these already. And it's the city code. To me, this seems like something we need to go to the city council with a proposal and say, this is what we need to do. It addresses Tom's concerns about parking. And Tom has some other good ideas around that too that aren't germane right now. But I mean, at this point, we lack the ability to change the code. And I don't want anybody to have to go through our records and say, you approved this one because these were nice folks who tried to do things right. You didn't approve that one. I mean, at some point, we're just voiding the city's zoning law.
And that's one of the ways you can make change.
It is, but I'd rather have the council tell me no before I start defying them. And we haven't even asked them.
Well, I think we're making an exception on a rule, that's all.
It is, but we approve this, we'll be making an exception on everyone like it, because the argument that Barbara's making applies to a lot of places and a lot of people we've already turned down.
We look at each one individually.
I don't think you can do that.
Okay.
Oh, that's why we got a board. We are.
Yeah. That's why it's 5. So Noel, do you have any other thoughts on this before we kind of take a temperature of where we're at with this? We do need to move forward.
Yeah, I do. I think that this very thing, trying to add the Sidewinder on driveways, whether it's on a single family detached home or whether it's on a side by duplex, or whether it's in the middle zone, I think that is something that's broken in our zoning code. And I agree with Stephen that it needs to get fixed so that have, a dozen fewer half-hour long or longer conversations each year about this particular sort of issue, that staff has got more ability to control the conversation on these things and to approve things that make sense for the city, regardless of what they are relative to our wishes about them. And I would also add things like the driveway width for these in industrial districts and a couple other ones that we've seen multiple times over the years where it's like, oh, this seems broken. I wish we could fix this. And I wish those things would get fixed. And I don't know that it's us. At some point, we've got to convince John to talk to Neil to say, I got the Board of Appeals guys are giving me a hard time every time we meet about some of these things, and they really need to get some code fixes in chapter 44 or whatever it is. Let's tinker with that and fix these things so that Board of Appeals folks can get home to their dinners sooner, and we can move on. So that's my feeling on it. In on the little picture sense, I think it's time to call the question here and decide.
Please let me say one thing. I might have an idea. Please.
Okay.
All right. Here's my idea. We have 2 alders on this call. Alders, all they have to do is put in a communication. They could put in a communication to council and ask for this particular ordinance this code to be looked at and to be considered for change if they want to. And we could hold this for 6 months or for 9 months if we have an alder willing to do that.
Is that a motion, Barbara?
That sounds like a motion to me.
Is that a motion, Barbara?
Yeah, I'll make it as a motion. I don't know if any of the alders want to do that.
Okay. We'll take that as a motion because that's where I was headed as well. But I think there's 3 people talking at the same time. So let's start with what your first was. We'll go to an alder and then we'll go to John. I think he needs to weigh in this as well because it impacts what he's trying to do. So is there an alder on the call that's willing to kind of participate in this process? All right. I see a hand by Alder Morgan and Eck. Great. Thank you guys.
Good.
I will say this because again, I maybe make the meetings a little longer, but I appreciate Alder communication and also Alder participation in this board. I've been on it for 2-3 years now, and having Alders on these calls this is exactly what we've been trying to accomplish for the 3 years that I've been on the board. Is everything we're talking about in terms of trying to find ways to use these issues as feedback back up to elected officials and to staff to try and find ways to evolve as society evolves. I do see a hand raised by the city of Green Bay. Let's go there.
Hi, this is David Buck. I just want to put you guys back on track. You're a judicial body, not a legislative body. So even though you want to dictate the code through your appeals, I just want to caution you to stay on track on what you're doing, and not try to become a legislative body. You know, a courtroom is not a place for designing code. And I'm just going to make that statement there because the topics have gotten interesting.
I could have swore I rode in an elevator with you earlier today, David, when you said you were just going to be the gatekeeper and not speak during the meeting.
I've been doing this stuff for 30 years, and I am, surprised.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think any of us are proposing what ordinance ought to be.
No.
Right.
We're just frustrated by having to continue a particular one, and we think you guys could craft something different that would reduce our workload.
And be amenable to the city residents.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I think I have a call this weekend to John, and we're going to set up a meeting. And I think the whole board is in this spot of trying to figure out what we've been trying to accomplish with keeping track of all these ordinances. And we can drop all of this conversation back to the administrative side so we can get everybody on their merry way. But I think ultimately, John, do you have any last comments before we vote? Because using our vote, we can choose to delay and then discuss administrative stuff later. And I'm, as a chair, I'm open to that. I totally understand exactly the comment that was just made about we're not legislators. We do not want to write code. But what we don't want to do is either be inconsistent or continue to be the negative front of the city where we're basically telling people they can't use their properties the way that they want to because maybe the society's maybe evolved a little bit past the code. And I've seen that for a long period of time.
Correct, Tom.
Right.
I guess the point this is David again, the point I wanted to make is to hold an item until the code can be changed. What you're trying to do is identify a hardship. It's not whether you agree with the code or not. Is there a hardship that needs to be granted a variance from? It's not, let's postpone this and change the code, and then we can bring it back.
I don't think we're asking to change the code. What we're asking,
Well, that's just exactly what was said, so that's the only reason I just bring it up.
totally get it. I think what we're trying to figure out is, and that's why I want to hear from John, is, you know, we're if we hold, is there information we can come back to say, is this something the city's willing to look at, regardless of where it goes? I think that's a fair stance. Is that board? Is that kind of what I'm hearing? We're not.
I think if you've got legislators on the call who are saying they want to see some action on this vis-a-vis code, we can.
I also think this is within our power.
Okay, John, what are your thoughts, real quick, and then let's kind of get to this because we're getting long in the tooth.
To sum up here, I echo David's sentiment as far as this body being a judicial, not a legislative. We do have at the end of the meeting here discussions about quarter two, and I know we can go ahead and discuss here. We have 5 items. They're all pretty similar here as far as driveway usage. But right here can go ahead and impact what we as staff go ahead and bring back to council for any sort of interpretations or code changes. But I'm going to echo what David said right there. This is not really the place to go ahead and have a conversation to go ahead and change code. It's a hardship case right here. It's not as though even here with staff, we look at every last piece of code and go, we like that. It's not as, we're not debating on that merit. We're debating on the actual ordinance that exists right now.
Right.
All right, guys, we have a motion on the floor to hold the item. Did you state a length of time, Barb, in your motion?
I said 6 months, but I'm thinking about if they have to get it taken out, it has to probably be after the thaw. So maybe is 9 months okay? Because it's already September, and then by June, the ground should be thawed if they end up having to take it out. Does that make sense or not?
Sure.
Sure.
Who seconded? I can't remember. Was that you, Tom?
I did.
Okay, are you good with that? 9
Yeah.
months? So that's the motion on the floor as the chair. Considering all the discussion, that is what we're voting on right now. And then if it fails, then we'll go back to the hardship thing. But that is what is, and I'm entertaining that vote. So all those in favor of holding this issue for 9 months, as the motion states, go ahead and say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, so I believe it's Mary.
Yes.
Mary, what we've just decided is we are going to basically hold your item for the next 9 months, meaning that it's in a status of just don't do anything, continue to contact with John, right? Fair, John? Okay. And within the next 9 months, it could be next month, it could be 2 months, it could be up until 9 months. At that point, it's going to come before the board and we're going to have to vote on and take action on it. Correct? Everybody's on the same page on that?
I think we won't do it before 9 months, right? It's kind of automatic. We set it for 9 months, didn't we?
Right.
correct.
But they can bring it forward if they want 2 months, if they want, right?
I don't know.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, we're saying up to 9 months, no matter what 9 months it's coming. If they want to come back in 3 months, great. We're just holding our vote for 9 months, up to 9 months. Okay.
9 months.
And then we'll discuss some of this other stuff in the administrative at the end a little bit, because I think we're all in the same spot, and I think it's worthy of a conversation. So anyway, thank you, Mary, and Alder Morgan. I think you were the one on helping her get. Jessica, thank you for helping everybody get on there. Let's continue to move on. We are now going to 4. Is that correct, everybody?
Item 2.
Thank you so much for
All
your
right.
consideration.
Yep.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
You're welcome. So we're going to 2 now. And again, I apologize for not remembering the order from the beginning. Let's go to number 2. Let me pull up my agenda here. Okay, Appeal 2231, Robert Kendall Jr., applicant on behalf of Kendall. Property owner proposes the addition of a carport in the front of a single-family home at 2871. We're looking at a front yard setback. Alder Campbell is the alder of this. Go ahead, and John.
Sure. So it's a corner property right here over at St. Anthony. As you can see from the aerial, they have a driveway entrance that comes off of St. Anthony. You're also going to see this is an older aerial. There was at one point a gravel drive. That would be a second driveway that leads to an accessory garage, but the city years ago took that off the table because it's a second driveway that is gravel. It's meeting a number of code violations with that in mind. As relief, they're asking to go ahead and put in a carport in front of the house itself, where you might expect to go ahead and see a garage. That does not exist. They want to put the carport in the area where you see these cars parked. The issue at play is its accessory building in the front yard setback. Accessory buildings are allowed to be beyond 55 feet beyond the right-of-way itself.
So, John, if they had come with a proposal to put a garage of the exact same dimensions as the carport and attach it to that house, would that be permissible?
Yes, but no. The issue comes to play is front yard setbacks then, and the amount of actual room that we put forward to make that occur is practically not feasible to have a car length inside of that garage right there. Doing some quick math on the rest of the built up block, anything that's a front 24 feet or so to the right of way itself. And
they don't have enough room for that.
They don't have enough room to go ahead and put the garage up then, to actually put a car inside of it then. No.
Any questions for the city before we hear from the applicant?
Can you put the aerial back up again?
Yep, we'll do.
I would appreciate that.
This is a single family dwelling?
Correct, it is.
Did they fill the garage in?
What do you mean by that?
It looks like there may have been a garage there at one point, or is that part of the main house?
In the building itself?
Yeah,
Not that I'm aware of.
because it doesn't. None of the windows match, and that's all sided, and the rest of the house is fascia. That looks like someone filled the garage in at one point.
I hear you. Does look like that.
One thing to note as well, when talking to the building inspectors, for any sort, this is not zoning code, but it's just building code in general. If you were to place an accessory building like this up against an existing wall, you have to go ahead and make sure your windows are fire rated, that your walls are fire rated. There has to be separating the buildings, which would make this compound the issues on the site.
Okay, can you show me one more time? And is it in this photo? Go back.
Okay.
The drawing that you were just at to this photo is going here.
Correct. Yes, where the cars are parked. Yeah, in the front of the house. Yes, in the driveway.
Okay. I'm super confused on the layout of this. So we come off the house,
right? Here's the front view. So 24 feet wide, 3 stalls, the 3 parking stalls. Here's a side view, 16 feet in depth. So go ahead and place that then 3 stalls of parking space, 16 feet in depth back towards the road.
Okay. So basically, I'm trying to figure out, and we can hear from the applicant, maybe they know a little bit more about the history of the property, but for my bearings, while I hear testimony, go back to the picture of the house for me, please. That as you were talking about, it seems to me this building here at one point was probably a garage, and now there is no garage. Is that correct?
I don't think so. Looking at the street view around the corner.
So this is still the house. So they're trying to build a structure that's coming off of this tented portion of the house that comes off flat, and it's a carport.
Yeah, looking to put a carport out that would fit 1, 2, 3 cars, 16 feet in depth, in front of this portion of the house.
Just basically at the end of that driveway.
Okay. All right.
John, are you able to bring up the street view?
I'll do that here. Yeah. Just a moment.
Like a live one, and go around the corner onto was that Mount Mary?
Yes. Just give me one moment of that.
Or if somebody could give me permission to share, I could bring it up myself. But
I'll get it in here in 10 seconds.
Oh, I see what you're talking about now. Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay, so
yeah, go down and around the corner, and then take a look back at the house from the other side. Yeah, go a little further so you can come up on the from behind and take a look at the back as well. I think it's just you see those windows on the side there. That wasn't a garage. I don't think that was.
Yeah, no, I agree. It looks like maybe there was some damage to the front of the house at one time, and then they just sided it over. Okay,
Yeah.
good point.
But it's
Good
it's,
catch.
and again, whatever you choose, unique or weird, diamond shaped lot on a hill, with existing garage way back, that was probably totally okay when this was like town of Preble or something like that, right? But
Are you allowed to have a driveway that leads to nothing? Doesn't it have to lead to something?
right, so you can see right here, there is a garage back this way. The city took orders to take out the second driveway.
No, I'm talking about the first one, the driveway over here.
Right. Not conforming.
That's not
Yeah.
conforming either.
Correct, it's not conforming, but it's been used, so that's why it's okay.
So what I don't understand is they have they can't use the garage over here on the left, but they have a driveway that goes to nothing. Is there a garage on this house?
no.
And they can't
Why
build
would
one
the
to the
city
left.
tell them they can't use the garage that's there?
It's right here.
Yeah, why would the city say you can't use that, and then they pave that as the driveway that leads to a garage?
It's a good question. I've asked our building inspectors in the past why this happened this way. The issues that come into play from before, one, it was never paved in the past. Two, it is a second driveway that leads to, so you have your first driveway and a second driveway, then that goes through your front yard itself, getting back to the detached garage. I have more speculation, but it's not appropriate for here as far as why that might have happened in the past. This happened years ago as far as the orders to go ahead and not use that garage. As you can see right here.
The petitioner also said that it's too steep and slippery in the winter anyway, which, looking at the grade there,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Do we have the petitioners here?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of when I looked this one over, I was super confused because I didn't understand where the driveway was going. So I had so many questions before we do an application to say I don't have my bearings yet. So maybe the petitioner can clear some of that up, but I just wanted to ask some of those questions first. So is the petitioner on the call and they'd like to speak and maybe help clarify some of our confusion?
Uh-oh.
They probably gave up.
All right.
Should we hold until we can get them to a meeting?
Yeah.
I move that we.
Sorry, I thought it was the one that says Zoom user.
No, he said he was here for number 4.
Yeah.
We're on number 2, I think, right?
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
Is Erica Soto that user? Are you folks for or against this item? Are you here for item number 2?
No, we're here for 4 as well.
Okay.
Copy that. Okay.
So maybe we should hold this one. I think this is a really interesting parcel and configuration, and maybe we need to have the petitioner here to understand it more fully.
Yeah, I very much agree. And I would almost even think, John, is there any information in terms of us just talking as a group that maybe needs to go back and ask some city questions too on this?
Yeah.
I'll follow up more as far as what happened in the past. I have looked through our online files as far as what happened with the garage, and I don't have anything that specifically relates to that garage and that itself. But
So,
there
I mean-
were.
Yeah,
That's right,
I think it's interesting that we're in a position where we're granting a variance for a non-conforming driveway that's turning it. The whole thing seems like they don't have a driveway and there's a garage and there's a driveway going to nothing, but it's going to a carport that doesn't fit. Remember, the garage that's supposed to be used can't be used for alternative reasons. So I don't know. I feel like the whole thing needs to kind of start over and ask some other questions before it gets back here. That's my personal feeling.
Okay.
I think if you look, John had shown the 2012 version, and that driveway wasn't there in 2012.
Right.
There's a drain in there. It looks like too. It looks like there's some sort of drain in the middle of the driveway. Doesn't it look like that?
I meant the driveway that goes to the small garage.
Yeah, there's no gravel this way.
Yeah, so that's happened in the last.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
or they just put fresh gravel down and it was a rutted thing before that or
I
something.
don't know. It looks like it. I don't know.
There's a boat blocking that thing. Anyway, I think it's a lot of speculation. I just think there's a lot of questions. We can hold this for a month and next meeting.
See if we can get the petitioners here and talk about it.
And then that gives John some time to maybe look through some more information, because this one's super confusing to me. Everybody good with that? Anyone want a motion or second that?
I moved to hold it for a month, for our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. All right, I have a motion to hold for next meeting and by Noel, second by Mr. Hoy. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, so let's move that
I
to next.
oppose.
Oh, you do oppose?
Yeah, I don't think I'd approve this in a month if he came. It explains out of conformance, and he's not offering any alternatives. I don't see.
I mean, I'm with you there right now. I just think we've been really consistent about letting
We've already done it. That's fine. It's mostly a protest vote. I think we should just move on.
All right, cool. All right, we are on to the next one. Please, so I don't guess again, tell me which one we're on to now.
Number 4.
Thank you. All right, number 4. Thank you for that. Okay. Appeal 2233, Jose Aguilar of Titletown Construction on behalf of Juan Soto, Antonio Soto Vera. We're looking for a side setback, taper triangle requirements. And the address is 1681 Fiesta Lane. John, go ahead and take us away.
Okay, so this is different from what we've been discussing here from other ones. Let's keep in mind those were attached garages that were 2 stalls. This is a 2-stall detached garage. So your side yards are a bit different. So you're looking right here at what was an old area. The driveway that is there is non-conforming. Why is it non-conforming? We're going to go back to what does it mean for how far again for a setback off of a side yard, and where does a drive with legal spaces go to? So the issue is with a detached garage, you are allowed with your accessory building to have your setback be 4 feet off of the side yard, which this did not. Additionally, since you would not have any extra side parking here in the legal side parking in the side yard, the drive is supposed to then go to the garage. So there's some play in the code itself as to where the drive can go. Essentially, the drive, according to code, would need to go ahead and line up with this garage itself. And as you can see here, this is an old photo of the property itself. So this is non-conforming. Additionally, there's a triangle taper that's required to go ahead and meet up back at the apron. This past summer, property owner went ahead and installed a new driveway, but it's the same as it was before. If you are doing the new driveway and you're doing major repairs, you might form in code at that point. This did not. So with that in mind, you can see approximately where the side of the side property line would be and the side yard. So this area right here is not wide enough to go ahead and be a legal parking stall. The driveway is supposed to go ahead then and line up with the garage itself. And then with that in mind, a triangle taper is necessary to go ahead and line up with the apron as well.
Okay, thanks, John. Any questions for John or his team?
Why is the driveway at the apron just off from the, I mean, it looks like it's off even relative to the original driveway.
I think this is the same apron that was there in the past. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Why is it off in general?
Yeah.
Or this fire hydrant is what caused that in the past to go ahead and be an issue.
Hmm.
The weird non-conforming of the past.
I think it might be the angle on the street view too, because I was thinking the same thing, but the more I look at it, the more I think it's probably in the same spot. We put down some bricks on the one side of it.
Yeah, I mean, the old and the new aerials, it looks like they just bear no relationship to each other. It's kind of strange.
Okay, is the petitioner on the call that would like to speak and give us their testimony for this?
Yes. Yes, I am in the call.
Okay, cool. Go ahead and just, since it says Zoom user, just go ahead and state your name.
Okay. My name is Jose Aguilar with Titletown Construction, and I applied for the variance because I was the one who rebuilt the driveway for Antonio, for Juan Soto. Everything that we did was pretty much replaced, back to the original driveway that was there. As you can see, the driveway apron does not align with the garage for the reason of the hydrant being there. There's 8 foot from the edge of the apron to the hydrant. So if I would have gone and aligned that to the garage line, I would have been relatively close to the hydrant. And I know there's a code for that. That there's a certain spec that the driveway has to be away. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 10 feet actually, or 8 feet. So for that reason, the apron wasn't touched. The apron was left alone. With the original, the apron was not touched at all. It is still the same original apron from when they got the house about 11 years ago. And one of the reasons they got this house, one of the reasons why they bought it and they convinced them to buy it was because of the apron being so spacious. And they have a handicapped relative that stays with them from time to time. They from time to time have use of a disability ramp vehicle that they use from time to time. So for that reason, we asked for the variance of the setback to be allowed, because that would give them more room to be able to come in and extend the ramp off of the vehicle if needed.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from the board? Okay. Is there anybody else on the call that wants to speak for or against this item? Okay.
Hold on. Hi, sorry.
Oh, okay. Erica
So,
Soto.
I'm Erica Soto, and this is my husband, Antonio. We're the owners of this property. And we also have our neighbor, Woody, here. I just want to clear that the side there, we didn't put bricks in them. That's actually the design of the driveway, like in place. So there's no bricks that were put there. It's the driveway itself. And the only reason why we replaced this cement was because it hasn't been replaced in about forever, since like 1970s or something like that. And it needed, to get redone. And I think it looks nice. It makes the neighborhood look much better than what it did. The cracks that it had were horrible. You can't really see them in that picture that you guys originally showed. But us living here and having to plow that, every winter was just, it was hard because we bumped into every, cement that was uneven.
It was heaved.
So, that's why we decided to redo the driveway, because it was much needed. And also because we had water issues as well in our driveway. The water was going into our house. And ever since then that this has been in place, we've had enough rain come through, and we haven't had any issues anymore with the rain coming into, the side of the house. So that's me. I'll let our neighbor Woody here, he lives right next door, say what he has to say.
Yeah, I live on the other side, on the west side.
Do you mind just your full name and your address?
Franklin Glim, 1677 Fiesta Lane.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I've been living here since 1976, my wife and I and our family. And that driveway was uneven and busted the whole while I've been here. And I was happy that he did this. It looks super nice. And it's exactly the same size as what they ripped out.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? I have one, but I'll let the board go first if there's any questions for the petitioners.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
you're telling me that the new driveway is in the same footprint as the original driveway?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioners? So my question is what I don't think I've heard clearly is what is stopping this property from conforming with code?
The driveway shouldn't go farther to the side than
No, the
garage.
petitioner. So if what I haven't heard them say is this is why this is like that case hasn't been made for me. It seems to me that it's just we're redoing what was there. There's no hardship that we're talking about in terms of designing a property. It's more of we don't want to take it out, and we did a beautiful job, and I will say it's very well done. But I haven't heard a case of why it needs to be the way it is yet. So I want to give one more at bat there to try and hear that case, because right now it's very easy for this to conform.
Okay. So the reason for it, for it being the way it is, or the reason to rebuild it the same way, is because extending the apron to align with the garage would put the apron so close to the fire hydrant.
Yeah, but let's be clear real quick. The apron is not the issue, correct, John? It is the extension of the driveway past the garage. So the garage point, if you can point at it, there's like a little black line that comes off the side.
And then
that portion.
The reason for the line setback was, like I said, they have a family member who comes here from time to time. She is disabled, so from time to time they have a use of a disabled vehicle, which has a ramp, and it would just be so helpful for them to be able to keep it the way it is, and it would cause a hardship if it was mandated to be removed or cut back, because even though the driveway has enough dimensions, for it or whatever, it would be a hardship, because then they would have to be moving cars around and able to be able to easily come and go with this handicap vehicle when it comes.
So let me be clear. This person doesn't live there, and they can still do it in the driveway, but you'd have to move cars.
They stay with them from time to time. They will stay with them for.
But they don't live
amount of
there.
time. What was that?
They don't live there.
Not permanently, but they stay there enough.
Okay. And the hardship is that you have to move cars into the street?
Well, the hardship would be having to move all kinds of cars to be able to access the drive with a handicap vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, let's get to some discussion here. I'll jump in. Again, I will state this for the folks on the call, everything. We hate doing retroactive rulings. It never feels fun. It's not a good spot to be in. Unfortunately, sometimes we're in those spots. The 3-step test for me in terms of, public interest. It doesn't seem like it is harming public interest. But the physical property, the physical unique characteristics of the property does not stop this from conforming to the code. And to me, it has to go through all three, and I'm already at step 2, and it's failing for me. So for me, I'm just letting everybody know my vote is going to be to deny the variance. That doesn't mean that's why we have 5 votes. So I could be 1-4 here, but I just wanted to kind of get mine out early.
In regards to step 2, back in the day, way back, like 1930s, the driveways went 2.5 feet from the property line. It didn't go from the placement of the garage. They were running them 2.5 feet off that property line. And as I look at that driveway, that sure looks to me like it's 2.5 feet. And the other part, as far as your number 2 goes, they didn't put brand new driveway in. They just made the old one better. So that would kind of trump, going past number 2 for me.
Yeah, I think the thing that John said that I think is critical for us to think about is that we run into these things all the time. Tom, you've been here longer than me, but if someone takes structure and rebuilds it in this place, that at that point they're supposed to conform to code, So again, this one happened retroactively. We're looking at it, but anyway, I'll let the rest of the board speak. But any other comments? Go ahead, Stephen.
John, there was no permit pulled for this, correct?
So my understanding for this is there was conversations that were had between building inspectors and the applicant. Building inspectors gave a pathway forward that would work within the code, and this was done without acknowledgement of what could have been done to make this all comply within code.
So there was, but ultimately there was not a permit issued.
Not for this, no.
Not for
there
this.
was not.
Okay. I hear what Tom is saying, and I mean, Green Bay didn't even have zoning codes till the early mid-50s. So yes, John.
Yeah, I do want to note, as far as the 2.5 foot, we do have that in place for lots that are 60 feet and less. That exists. This is not one of those lots, though. So we are talking narrow lots that are in the we'll vote back in the 30s.
Yeah.
We have the 2.5 foot exception, but not for more contemporary.
Good to know. Thank you, John.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I'm glad you brought that up, Tom. I guess I'm leaning towards no. I don't feel having to move cars is a hardship, and the disabled person doesn't live there. I would take that into account normally, but that's not their permanent residence. It's just not. And it is a 2-car driveway. I don't think you'd have any problem. The fact that you have to move cars on the street is not a hardship. So, I mean, you had the opportunity to do this within code, and it wasn't done that way. And I don't know why. I'm leaning towards no.
Noel, Barb, any thoughts?
No, he said your name first.
I'm yeah, it's not a it's the same exact thing that's been there for a long time, and that's part of what I'm struggling with here. It's like if this is, if we're a substitute for code enforcement action, I guess that's one thing. I don't quite get, but it's like, I know they, I don't know.
No, maybe help. It's heartfelt because we hate this, but at the same time, let's say this was being proposed and it wasn't done in advance. This was the proposal coming in. In terms of that frame of looking at it, where would you stand?
Yeah, we'd say no to it.
Well, I'm asking you because you're struggling, right? So
Yeah.
you've done that for me before.
Yeah.
right? Because these retroactive ones are not fun, right? So so you've asked me to look at it that way. I think that's a good, fair thing to do.
I have a question for John. John, did you say that they came in and there was a conversation with inspectors that said, here is how you need to do it, so that there was an awareness there of how it needed to be done, and then it wasn't done in that appropriate way? Did you say that?
I did. I'm going to just share the screen here again. What you'll notice is you have your line here for expansion joint. City inspection staff came to the sites asking, what's the deal? Why is this being done? My understanding, it was either not a permit or it was not fully recognized at that point. At that point, inspection gave notice of where a driveway could be placed to be within the code, and the construction still occurred to go back to revert to this old non-conforming way. So notification was put out there to change this to be within the code. I'm going to go ahead and comment on that.
Was that prior to the concrete being poured?
The concrete was poured on the left side right here, the area where there's no question. As far as the right side was not poured yet.
Okay.
Okay. And then I have one question for the applicant, since the floor is still open. I would like a little bit further clarification about the person that stays at the house. Is this a relative that's there months out of the year, or can you give us a little more clarification, or don't you know?
Okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, so it is the mother-in-law, and she comes, and it's not a few months out of the year, but she comes and goes. She babysits from time to time, so she'll come, and kind of watch the kids and things like that. So she relatively comes over on a regular basis. The other thing that I had was the discussion with the city inspectors did not came prior to being redone, like it was just said before. The discussions with them had already been poured. That's when the discussion with the city inspectors came, and that's when they advised us on how it should have been and how it should be built, but it had already been poured. The notice that we've got from the city inspector came in on a Friday, early Friday morning, and by that time, the second half of the driveway wasn't poured. When me and my team got there to pour it, we found a note on the window. The concrete truck was already a couple blocks.
Can you repeat that? We lost you there for a second. The concrete was.
As you guys all know, on Fridays, everybody's gone by 11 o'clock. So there was nobody there that I could talk to. So my effort to talk to them was still there before the second half was done. The other thing too is, with you guys saying that it doesn't meet code, we know that it doesn't meet code. That's the reason why we ask for a variance, because we know that it doesn't meet the code. Because if it would have met the code, then we wouldn't be having this meeting, obviously. So asking for the variance, we're not asking you guys to how should I say it? To advise us on what the code is, because we already know that it's out of code. We're just asking for a variance, which is, the reason for these meetings.
Okay. All right. I think we've got enough testimony. I think I think we're at the point where we need to either entertain a motion or whatever, unless there's more discussion from the board. But I've got a sense that we've kind of all aired our thoughts on this, and we need to kind of move forward. So I'll entertain a motion from someone.
I motion to deny the application.
Do we have a second? Can I second as a chair?
Dan.
Okay, I'll second the motion. So we have a motion by Stephen and a second by me to deny the variance request. So we'll take a vote here. All those in favor of denying the variance, say aye.
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 All those in favor of
Opposed to the motion.
Thank you. Oppose the motion.
Aye. Nay.
Aye.
All right. So we have a 3-2 vote. Unfortunately, again, we're in these situations where it's 5 people. You know, we're all here, and right now it looks like a 3-2 vote goes in the way of denying the variance request. So next steps would be to work with John, the team, try and find a way to have it fill within code. So it fit.
Okay, well, okay, so now with it being denied, will you guys allow me to extend the drive?
Sorry, you're cutting in and out.
Me,
Can you
the
start?
garage I'm supposed to.
Sorry, start over because it cut out halfway through your sentence.
Okay.
So say
So
what again.
Do I have the option of extending the driveway apron at least to meet the garage line?
Right. So right now, with your way of going this to meet the zoning code itself is to go ahead and place or to take out part of the driveway 4 feet from the property line or at the garage itself, if you take that plane, and then put a triangle taper that would extend 5 feet beyond the right of way to form it's usually an hourglass type of shape to then hit back up the plane of the driveway. We'll be in touch here with the inspectors to go ahead and show you what has been put out there and put forth to make this work.
He's specifically asking about the apron, which isn't necessarily for us, but just when your conversation's happening, the apron that goes in with the fire travel.
Fire hydrant.
Fire hydrant, thank you. That apron there. So John, just make a note of that when you guys discuss to explore all possibilities there so they can get it right.
Right, we'll do.
Thanks, John. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, not a fun thing to deal with things retroactively. Thank you for your time, and just continue to work with the city on this. Let's move on to the next agenda item. There's one more, correct?
We're informational now.
Oh, we've done all the items. Okay, great. All right, I know it's late and these go long, and I did watch, by the way, everybody, last month online, and everybody was super happy that it went really long, but I want to remind everybody that you had like 3 people that didn't show up and you had like 3 people on the agenda. So sometimes it's not just me, right? Where are we at with some of this procedural stuff? Tom, you had a lot of great information and I appreciate it. We have been working really, really hard, at least since I've been here, to try and find a way to not be legislative, but to be informative back out to council to say, hey, these things are coming out. We can't create the rules. We can't tell you what to do, but these are things we're seeing, and this should be looked at. So I think we really need to kind of talk through that.
Can I say something from the point of view of being on council? And
Yeah.
I came to these meetings, and I did try to change one of the codes and a zoning code, and it didn't work out. But there would be no way, me being on council, I would know what the problem is. And we don't often have alders here. And it was good that we had alders here today. But somehow, it is not realistic for us to think, well, alders are going to watch this every time it's on, and they're going to see if there's any problem. No, there has to be someone that is communicating what we see in this Board of Appeals back to council, and maybe there is. I don't know. I don't recall anybody ever coming to me and saying, Barb, could you put in a communication about changing a code or something? But there has to be a way. This was a good way to communicate. And when I came to these meetings as an alder, it was good for me to hear what the problems were.
Yeah, and I'll speak to some of that, Barb, real quick, and then we can get some other thoughts. But see, the document you're looking at right now, while it might not be perfect, was like drafts of what we were trying to create. So what I had kind of suggested was this idea of whether it's a quarterly, annual, semi-annual, whatever it is, report that was generated to say, hey, here's all of the variances that were done. And the hope was that they were coded in the database from an alderman perspective. And then that spreadsheet could be sent out to the alder saying, hey, by the way, the Board of Appeals has dealt with in your district these appeals. This is what they voted on, whatever. And I would think as an alder, it would be cool to say like, oh, because Brian Johnson's districts looks very different than Alderman X district, right? And so especially the way the houses are designed and everything. So I would think as an alder to go, hey, look, my constituents in my area are always dealing with driveway issues. I should discuss that with the other alders at some point. I don't know. That was my intent. Whether that's the right way to go, that was what I was trying to do.
I mean, it's nice, but I'm not sure that alders would have enough background information to read this and draw that conclusion. Because it's not even kind of divided by districts, is it? I mean, all of one isn't in one place.
Yeah,
all
not
of
yet.
two isn't one. Yeah, but maybe that would do it. But we should ask, perhaps, could we ask alder, what would this give them enough information, or does some specifics have to come? There's one there.
And along these lines, Barb, I think information, which is why I was trying to find the rationale behind the actual code itself, because it's one thing to look at the code and say, well, that doesn't make any sense to me, but there may have been a reason, and there may be a good reason, there may still be a good reason to do. And what I would propose is between Tommy's data, Tom's ideas, and a little bit of research I've done, that maybe Tom and I could get together and put together either a small report or a small PowerPoint that we could show the alders and say, this is what we're proposing. This is Tommy's got the proof that we're dealing with these. Tom has some ideas on what we can do on these, and this is what we propose. And then maybe one of our alders can bring that up into council. But the whole idea would be to give them the whole story so that they don't have to do any research on their own, but they can understand our viewpoint to it, and that they can make an informed decision based on the viewpoint of this board. And then, kind of go from there. That was my idea.
And I think that's an interesting idea, that it has a possible path forward. I wonder too, though, we've got John on the call and David hiding behind the City of Green Bay logo. And, could we, these conversations could be had with staff too, right?
It could. I'd want to know if John thinks this is a bad idea to change the thing. Honestly, his opinion weighs a lot on my mind.
Right. And I'm going to go back to our senior staff here with David on this, but there have been times where things have come up where this meeting we went ahead and we had 5 different driveway issues. And so it seemed like it's a lot, right? But if you look back into just Tom, to go ahead and note, we're looking at the whole the map here for parking issues from 2018 on. And we didn't have time to go through the whole process to make a map out of it right now. This week is too short a notice to go ahead and do that. But started the process on it. And what do we have a lot of times for issues? We have setbacks for driveways. A lot of times there's accessory building issues. And a lot of times there's issues for setbacks to go ahead and put on, for say, decks and things of that sort. That's the residential portion of it. Then we have a commercial ideas as far as we might have some signage issues, or we might have some more setbacks as far as parkways. That seems to be the biggest things that go ahead and keep on reoccurring with this board. And those who are around can remember me going back where it was just me doing FAR for different companies for a meeting. That's all that it was. And so does that really go ahead and play into, is FAR actually wrong? Those are going to discuss by staff to go ahead and say, okay, examining this, there are a lot of things coming up right here. Should the code change either wholesale, or how does it be tweaked to go ahead and work so we're not having this to come back to this board and not having 6 items, but maybe having like 1 or 2 that are truly hardships for people that need to go forward with that.
Yeah, and John, I'd go so far even as not just think about the code itself and the uses and the dimensions of the things. That's all important. but I also wonder about the empowerment of staff to resolve some of these things. I think there might be times where your hands are tied and you only have the option of telling somebody, well, go talk to the Board of Appeals, and they'll waste an hour thing when you knew what the best path forward was, and you just weren't able to say, okay, do this, and we'll stop finding you, something like that. And I think, or there's got to be situations too where maybe we say, you know what, we're going to allow this, but no more than that. And I don't care, you can't appeal that one, you know, or whatever. It's just like hard and fast. I'm going to make you pull that piece of concrete out because you poured it before you talked to me or whatever. I mean, I don't think we should just be talking about, you know, hoping for a future where you've redrafted the code so that we don't have as many requests under item X. I think it's also a matter of looking at how, you know, the permitting processes are issued, the inspection processes are issued. There might be much more to this. It might be a bigger can of worms than just saying, hey, we don't like we don't like the some of the parking things and you know, wine, right?
Right. I hear what you're saying, and I'll let David jump in here too, because he's got a hand up, but I'll just note, we had 6 items here, or sorry, 5 this session. We could have probably had 10, but there is staff that we talk with folks who are on there, try to find ways to make the code work, because the code is not straightforward, where everything, going back to this whole garage issue and the 4-foot setback and where do you go and put that line? You can go ahead and play within the code to try to make it work. It just so happens that these 5 that came forward, it didn't work out that way. Yeah. But David, did you want to go ahead and jump in?
I just wanted to make the comment now that we're kind of in session, but not in session. I did not mean that you guys shouldn't talk about the code and make suggestions and talk with staff, but you shouldn't be doing it at the Board of Appeals meeting. Like holding items and then lobbying the legislators to change the code and hold it until the code's changed. Again, you're like a police officer. You may not agree with drunk driving laws, but you just can't let people not follow those laws. That's the point I was trying to make. And I think Steve brought that same point up, and Tommy might have as well. So I wanted to make that statement because, and I don't have a camera, so I'm not hiding behind the logo.
I can hook you up.
I got a couple in.
Council chambers.
I think the thing that what we're all after, and I don't know if we figured out yet how we want to do it, but what we want is data analysis, right? We want to be able to see trends and give staff or alders or whoever that person is the opportunity to see a trend and go, okay, cool. The city, if we want to be attractive to people and we want people to move here and they want people to develop their properties, we want the code to represent that. We all know that there's tons of houses in Green Bay that were built before every person in the family had cars. Specifically in Astor, I could tell you, obviously in the Broadway area, right? There's old, skinny, narrow things. And so we're going to see a bunch of variances. We're not going to that's why we're here. But I do think what we're missing is a feedback loop. And I think that's what we're trying to figure out. Now, whether that's handled by the staff, where they're doing their own analysis, keeping this record and going, okay, cool. In the last 3 years, you know, this is what we've seen. I don't necessarily think it's the board's job to always be identifying the trends. I think using our ability as a judge and jury to say yes or no, there should be something that goes off at some point somewhere in analysis that says, hey, we've seen too many of these. And it shouldn't be, I don't feel like it should be left up to us to be the ones to have that hair stand up on the back of our neck. Say, hey, I feel like we've seen enough of these. We should say something. There should be something more concrete. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet, but I think that's what we're trying to figure out. Is that a fair summary?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know that it matters where it comes from. I mean, what I want to make sure is anything we do doesn't make John's life harder. You know, I mean, realistically, the whole point of doing this is to benefit the city, you know, and the citizens in it, and we don't make John's life harder. And I wouldn't, you know, I'll be honest with you, anything I would put together, I would run by John before showing it to an alder. just to make sure I'm not an idiot, right? But so the question really is, John, if let's say, and again, if Tom, if I'm speaking for you too much, please cut me off. If Tom and I put together something, is that going to be of any use to you, or is this just going to be more trouble in your yard? Because I don't want to do it if it's going to be tough on you, but I also think that, I don't necessarily want staff to have another task either.
Well, let's take, for instance, our quarterly report we have right now. We can make this better, and that's what we are also seeing right now, right? The quarterly report from second quarter.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and say, code this better to where we're saying green means driveway issues, blue means residential accessories, and see what pops out.
Okay.
If there's something that pops out as far as, hey, I see this happening here, and it happens to go in a district. And I just want to point out, looking back to this quarter, and we've now finished in quarter 3, and we're talking about, well, I figure there's be more issues in the downtown core. We haven't had one request here for a variance in District 7, which is maybe the oldest part of town. That would be everywhere that'd be downtown, north of like Walnut. That's Randy's district. So
Yeah.
That's Old North, and that's Fort Howard. Nothing from there.
Maybe it's because nobody complains on their neighbors when they do something.
Really?
I was going to say that, that's the frustrating part. Every time we turn one of these down, they point at 3 houses on the street that has got the same violation
Right.
that
Which
they've
I
gotten away
appreciate,
with for
Stephen.
years.
Stephen, I appreciate your kind of that energy behind the board, which is trying to find that consistency. Because, I feel like when I first joined the board, and Tom, maybe you can speak to this as well, it was a one-on-one and a heartfelt, issue. We went through some training. We got some better consistency. I feel like we're heading towards some better decision quality. And being consistent is critically important to me, because I don't want to be the guy on the thing that's like, okay, your record shows you voted 3 times this way, and now you're voting 3 times this way. I would hate that to be the case for myself. So I think there's a lot of different things happening here. I think if you and Tom want to get together, Steven, if Tom's, he hasn't even agreed to that yet, but and you want to talk through some things, I think that's great. I have already a call last week into John. I know I had a great conversation with Stephanie about some things as a chair that I think we can improve in terms of how speedy these meetings are, what John's role in this meeting is, using what he said already in color coding stuff. I could sit down and talk to him about all of that. And maybe we just circle back after some conversations happen next month in this information session and say, hey, where's everybody? Let's fill everybody in on some of those conversations, maybe bring some ideas to the table. Because I have like 3 things right now that I think we could do that would improve a lot of different things. I just don't think we need to discuss it here. It attacks some of what you're talking about, Barb, in terms of alderman engagement, all of those different things. And I was going to run it by John. So does anybody feel good with just kind of saying, hey, we're here. We've gotten this good conversation out. Let's go. Let's break. Have some great conversations. If I'm open to getting a beer with anybody, a drink, whatever, coffee, with anybody on this board to talk about this issue, because I think it is so critical to find a way to use information to improve process. That's it. If I walk off the board and that one thing happened, I would be like, okay, I did my job.
Yeah, I think there are things too around, we made some significant, complete overhaul of the application form for a variance, right? And how effectively are we using that, right? I mean, tonight, Tommy, you asked one of the petitioners about, okay, I'm giving you another shot. Tell me what the hardship is here. What's your real reason? And we had a past where staff would not really comment in any way on the requests. And I was always frustrated by that. I think that, I'm okay with hearing the professional opinion of somebody who does this for a living telling me they don't think that the applicant met the tests, or they don't, or that the applicant, tried and got close, or, they presented alternatives, or, even the process. I just understand some of those things and think about it, and, and the public interest element as well. It's like, that's part of this test here. And is this action in any way detrimental to the public interest? And, and if we, let one of those driveways stay a little bit wider, did we really hurt the city?
Yeah, there was an interesting thing, a quick side. The city council last meeting dealt with something where there was someone putting up a structure that happened to fall on city thing. And there was, our former.
I was there.
Jim Hutchinson, you were sitting in the background, and Jim Hutchinson, one of our former alder, brought up that heartfelt, hey, let's make an exception. He brought up the board, and then they went to the city, right? And they said, okay, cool. What happens if we do this? And they said, if you do this, the whole city gets opened up to all of these things. There's going to be thousands of these things that come through. And that comment from the city, was able to sway the vote in a way where it was basically, denied at that moment. And it's really stinky, right? No one likes to be in that position. No one likes to have their name attached to negative impact on people. But the city being involved in that conversation swayed it in a way that gave perspective that sometimes we're lacking because we're looking at one thing. And I think, Noel, you're critical. And I was planning on talking to John about that.
Yeah. At the same time, I mean, as an elected official, I mean, you want to go to bat for your constituents too, right? So even if it's not going to carry the day, sometimes you got to die in the sword. Right?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, we've had city folks weigh in on various requests. And one that I recall very distinctly had to do with the Habitat for Humanity request to put a home up. And it was basically it was on the west side, and it was surrounded by 3-story homes. And they wanted to plunk this 1-story home down in there. And I think her last name is Renier. She had something to do with the community park.
Yeah, Cheryl, she's the deputy director.
Yeah, and she said, no, this is not a good fit. It would be better to wait and even have an empty lot and hope for an architecturally conforming structure to go in rather than have this 1-story, Habitat house. So I would certainly encourage more city staff to weigh in on stuff like that. So John,
yeah,
that's fair.
Don't be
I hear
afraid
you.
to.
I've been a part of Paul's in the past, and how Stephanie did the fantastic transition there to go ahead and do the bridge. And I've heard stories in the past of being a 180 from Paul. I'm trying to go ahead and give you guys the facts you need to have, and not necessarily go ahead and sway, but give you more background potentially than what may have been out there in the future. So I'm trying to find a middle ground for you when it comes to these issues. That it's your decision on this, but these are the facts, how it relates to our code itself, and you're the arbiters to go ahead and say whether it's approved or not.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, I don't think there's any shrinking violets on this board. So.
All right. And I think it's always important to remind us that we are judge and jury, and it's a court, right? I've actually watched YouTube videos of other large cities of what we're doing. Dude, it's so formal. I was embarrassed of myself and how I was being chair compared to some of these other larger Philadelphia and stuff. It is formal court case. Judge, jury, they rule. So, I mean, if we want to take it that way, we could. I don't know if I want to as chair, and someone else can take it that way. But we are listening to a case being presented to us with facts. We listen to potentially a counter argument, and then we make a ruling. That's it. That's our job.
And I think things too, like somebody's a no-show as a petitioner. It's like, okay, we don't talk about it at all. We just hold it. We move to hold it right away. And then if they're a no-show a second time, we summarily deny it or something. Or we just, let it go, table it, right?
And we're talking about procedural things, and there's an important procedural thing. If you ever, any of us, recuse ourselves on council, on a committee, on this board, you may not talk at all. You cannot give an opinion. If you recuse yourself, you must be silent. And so you can't, I'm sorry, Steve,
No, fair enough.
And I know that because I've been involved in so many of the quasi-judicial hearings for city council, and it's important because you could sway. As it happened, that vote was a unanimous vote. There wasn't really any swaying, I don't think.
It's good to know. I did not know that, and I do appreciate the advisement, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure if I should have spoken up either. but I thought, well, I mean, I am in this neighborhood, but
Right.
I appreciate
It's not
the
about-
advice, and I'll keep
I
that in
don't think
mind.
you actually have a conflict of interest in that situation. I wouldn't have had a problem with you acting as a member of the.
To be honest with you, I just don't want conflict with my neighbors.
Yeah.
If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't actually know those folks. We wave at each other, that's it. But I don't want them to, I don't want the evil eye every time I walk out my house either. So
That's fair.
All right, let's
Okay.
do this because we're still
No
on the
worries.
record
We
here.
got hands
Alder-
raised from
Yep.
Alder Eck and Alder Morgan.
Yes, go ahead, Alder Eck.
I just wanted to say, because you were talking about the city staff, and I think that it comes to the Board of Appeals because it hasn't passed through what the ordinance, but the city staff has already vetted it. So in a way, they're giving their opinion by sending it to you. I guess as I'm listening, that thought came to me. So I appreciate how, John, you went through, you showed the pictures, you explained it. So I guess, does that make sense? That was my thought, that they're giving their opinion by sending it to the Board of Appeals.
Yeah, sometimes in the past, just some context, the story goes is that prior to Paul, there was someone in that same role that basically said, you should approve this or you shouldn't. And so Paul was extremely against any opinion in terms of how it would impact city or city staff. So there's a hesitation there. I've been through other subcommittee stuff as a business owner, and some of the city staff's like, you should approve this. And I'm like, I don't know if that's where we should be. So I think that's some context there, just kind of for you there.
Okay,
Alder-
that makes
Morgan, for sure. Alder Morgan, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, first I want to thank everyone. You guys very much impressed by the work you did tonight. I saw some knowledge from people that this was a very big learning experience for me, just listening to your committee tonight. And but I did see a lot of knowledge. I also saw some compassion. I think about some of the people in my area. They came here from a different country. They can't speak the language yet. I've lived here in Green Bay over 50 years, and I don't know all these variances and ordinances. So it's a learning experience that I'm glad I got to participate in. And I think you're doing a good job. Give your input. Little things like this can become bigger things. I was a police officer for 39 years, and I worked traffic my whole career. And if it wasn't something that harmed people, I liked the fact I could be judge and jury. I didn't have to send it to court, and maybe a warning or a stern speaking to could solve a problem, so it's nice that you'd think that way. Through my travels of trying to get people to vote for me, I heard from a lot of people, and I do know I worked in the county, so I know a lot of business people that they're kind of negative on doing business in Green. And part of that might be because some of our ordinances or rules need to be changed. Who knows? So please, if you have questions or something you'd like me to address, I'd be glad to listen. And once again, thank you. It was very knowledgeable, and I'm glad I got to be here.
I love it. Thank you for that feedback. We love to hear it.
Thank you.
And I can tell you again, I've been a big advocate I think this board's been a big advocate for Alder engagement. We know your schedules are super busy. You have 14 different committees you got to serve on, and notes and people you got to visit. So even your willingness to stay through the end and listen to our discussion is so critical. One of the things that we were proposing 2 years ago, then COVID happened, was the opportunity to maybe get some council time to say, hey, this is who we are, and give a bit of a background, because I think there's a miss sometimes there. We've had alders come on and advocate for us to approve something, and we're going, no, don't, like, nothing you're saying is helping the situation, because there was a lack of understanding of what it is we do. So now we've got Alder Dorf, we've got Alder Hutchinson, who's been on this board. He's on the council. You two have been here. So the more you can help, spread the good news, right, about what we're trying to do here. I think everybody's on the same page, whether we're doing it correctly or not yet. All we're trying to do is make the city better. and make people feel like they can live here and get stuff done and work with the city in a positive way, right? So that comes down to how the application is from a 5-page application to 3 pages, right? I still think we can make cuts there and make it simpler and more effective. Like there's so many opportunity to improve. So Noel, what's up, bud? We should go soon.
I was going to make a motion to adjourn if everybody was game for that.
Seconded.
Wait, we have to close the floor. We have to close
Thank
the
you.
floor.
You have to close it.
the floor.
Move to
A
close
motion
the
to
floor.
close the floor. A
I say
second.
thank you for having me.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. All those in favor of closing the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Motion
opposed?
to adjourn.
Noel, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second. Okay.
Aye.
All those, yeah.
Aye.
All those
All
in
in
favor,
favor,
say
say
aye.
aye.
All right, good. Hey, thank you.